Chapter 995. Long Yu instantly felt that there were at least 5 one-star Emperor-level experts surrounding him from all directions. As for those who hadn't reached the level of Emperor, they didn't dare to come closer. What a joke. Even Ji Bai, who was at the peak of Emperor Realm, was killed by Long Yu in seconds. The other Emperor Realm experts wouldn't dare to come closer. Anyway, there were 5 one-star Emperor experts surrounding him. In their opinion, this person was definitely going to die. He actually dared to attack in the holy city of 5 emperors, and it was during the Dark Moon catastrophe. He really doesn't want to live anymore. That's right. This person is too presumptuous. I don't know what enmity he has with Ji Bai. He actually sacrificed himself to kill him. No matter what kind of enmity it is, it can't be compared to the importance of the Dark Moon catastrophe. This person came to kill Ji Bai during the Dark Moon catastrophe. This is a serious crime. He must die. A group of people were discussing, and all of it was transmitted into Long Yu's ears. Long Yu listened to these discussions and suddenly snorted. He only said one sentence. So, you guys are quite concerned about the Dark Moon catastrophe? I didn't expect that. But if that's the case, why did Ji Bai hire a group of assassins to assassinate others at this time? Could it be that Ji Bai is allowed to kill others, but others are not allowed to kill Ji Bai? What kind of logic is that? As soon as Long Yu's words came out, the surrounding people immediately shut their mouths. None of them dared to speak. They didn't know what enmity Long Yu had with Ji Bai. They were afraid that Long Yu would rush up and kill them. After all, this person's whereabouts were too strange. Ordinary martial practitioners didn't dare to provoke him. Instead, the 5 one-star emperors came from all directions, and each of them revealed a cold smile. No matter how glib your tongue is, you can't change your fate today. How dare you come to the holy city of 5 emperors to kill people? Die. How dare you kill a direct disciple of the holy city of 5 emperors? This crime cannot be forgiven. And during the Dark Moon catastrophe, such behavior is a disgrace to all martial practitioners. The 5 of them besieged Long Yu, their auras soaring like rainbows. Even before they arrived, the power of various divine characters had already blotted out the sky, completely surrounding Long Yu. There was no chance for him to escape, because Long Yu had used balance control to hide his presence and used the Book of Shadow to transform himself. He could now do whatever he wanted without worrying about being recognized. That he dared to come to the 5 emperors to kill people. At this moment, even though he was surrounded by 5 one-star sovereign emperors, Long Yu still had a confident smile on his face. It was as if he did not care about these 5 people at all. This kind of expression, in the eyes of the surrounding martial cultivators, seemed like an idiot. To actually stay where he was and wait for death. Even if he wasn't a match for him, he should at least put up a fight. You are Shunwu World's strongest cultivators, the main force that fought against the Dark Moon's calamity. I don't want to attack you, Long Yu said calmly. What a joke. Do you think you can avoid death just because you don't want to fight? That's right. Ji Bai was killed by you. He was also the main force against the Dark Moon catastrophe. Didn't you kill him too? Cut the crap. Die. The 5 one-star sovereign emperors shouted angrily. Their voices were like violent thunder that shook the entire place. 5 different types of divine characters covered the sky and covered the earth as they rushed towards Long Yu like a tsunami, bringing along an incomparably terrifying aura. Long Yu didn't move. He stood in the middle of the 5 emperors' attacks. He was like a small boat in a storm that could capsize at any time. However, he still had a confident and indifferent smile on his face. What's wrong with this middle-aged man? Did he really give up resisting and want to die? Everyone in the surroundings was thinking the same thing. They were all confused and couldn't figure out what the middle-aged man in front of them was thinking. However, at this moment, Long Yu's figure finally moved. However, the moment he moved, he dissipated like a puff of green smoke. In the blink of an eye, Long Yu's silhouette, which was originally in front of everyone, had actually disappeared. Under the pressure of the 5 one-star emperors, Long Yu didn't move and disappeared. What's going on? I didn't feel the power of the godly runes. Is it an illusion? Did he cast an illusion on us? Impossible. My attainments and illusions are extremely profound. I didn't notice any trace of illusions being used. Where did he go? The 5 one-star emperors were dumbfounded. Even a second-star Imperial Emperor would have been crushed to pieces by the combined might of the 5 of them. But a mere mid-stage Imperial Emperor had vanished right under their noses? How could a mere mid-stage Imperial Emperor have vanished right under their noses? How was that possible? They had never seen or heard of such a technique before. It wasn't the godly runes, it wasn't an illusion, it wasn't any other technique. The middle-aged man just disappeared right in front of their eyes and turned into a puff of smoke. No, he didn't turn into a wisp of green smoke. That was just their imagination. In fact, even if he really turned into a wisp of green smoke or gas, he wouldn't be able to escape the senses of 5 first-star Imperial monarchs. Now, that middle-aged man had indeed escaped from the joint attack of the 5 of them. He had completely disappeared, and they didn't even know who he was. Deduction. Immediately, one of them began to use the power of deduction. However, when his power reached Long Yu's body, it was bounced back by Consort Yu's restriction. Before Consort Yu left, she had set up a restriction in Long Yu's Dantian to ensure that his Dantian's aura would not leak out. Moreover, it could block all deductions aimed at him. The restriction created by Consort Yu was beyond the ordinary sovereign secret realm cultivators. Not to mention these one-star emperors, even a sovereign secret realm cultivator from the Lushan clan might not be able to break it. After being bounced back by the power of deduction, the one-star emperor's deduction had no effect. Until now, no one knew who killed Ji Bai. How were they going to avenge Ji by now that he was missing and they couldn't deduce anything? The whole place was silent. It wasn't until an ancient dead soul of the Emperor realm was awakened that everyone came to their senses and started to deal with it. At this moment, Long Yu had already returned to the Heavenly Mandate City. Facing the joint attack of 5 one-star emperors, Long Yu could not withstand it with just his physical body. Moreover, he did not want to fight with the 5 one-star emperors. After all, none of them had done anything wrong. Therefore, Long Yu chose to avoid it. When the other party's attack was about to hit him, Long Yu used the Book of Shadows to assimilate with the other party's attack. At that moment, Long Yu completely integrated with the other party's attack and became a part of it. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for the other party to find out where he had gone. This method was also used by Long Yu when he fought against the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor in the competition of the strongest Emperor realm. At that time, Long Yu relied on the Book of Shadows to transform into the power of primordial thunder and consumed all of Long Yu's power in a breath. But now, when Long Yu transformed into the joint attack of the 5 one-star emperors, he only consumed less than 30% of his own power. Then, Long Yu secretly disguised himself as heir and left the sacred city of the 5 emperors. He found a safe place outside the sacred city of the 5 emperors and activated the Mark of 9 Serenities to build a transmission channel and directly returned to the Heavenly Mandate City. The whole process of the assassination of Ji Bai did not take more than 30 minutes. This was the terrifying part of the current Long Yu. However, after killing Ji Bai, Long Yu did not feel that this matter was over. Because, although he deduced that the murderer behind the scenes was Ji Bai, it did not mean that there was no one behind Ji Bai. Long Yu was very clear that since Ji Bai had taken action, it was very likely that the chief disciple of late Emperor Wulong was the real culprit. Of course, now Long Yu had no evidence, and Wulong's martial arts realm had already entered the 2-star Emperor. His deduction ability was much stronger than Long Yu's. Although Long Yu could prevent anyone else from deducing him, he did not have the ability to break through Wulong's defense. Consort Yu's restriction could only prevent others from deducing Long Yu, but it could not help Long Yu deduce others. Therefore, in order to find out if Wulong was involved, Long Yu would need to step into a higher realm of martial arts, or master a higher degree of the 9 Nethermark. Whether it was to increase his martial arts realm or master the 9 Nethermark, he could not be impatient. The latter required time, while the former required a large amount of spiritual qi to expand his inner world. Only then could he achieve the goal of increasing his martial arts realm. In the last half-month of the Dark Moon Calamity, there will be many more powerful ancient dead souls. That will be the time for me to reach the late-stage Emperor realm. Long Yu's eyes lit up as he thought about how to deal with Wulong. As long as he could step into the late-stage Emperor realm, with the help of the 9 Nethermark, he would be able to deduce something about Wulong. If Wulong was the one who ordered Ji Bai to assassinate him, then Long Yu would not allow Wulong to live for long. Long Yu would never show mercy to an opponent who dared to have thoughts about his family and friends. This was because he knew that once the other party had such thoughts, there was a possibility that they would do the same next time. In that case, Long Yu could not always be on guard against them. Only by eliminating the other party would he be able to live a peaceful life. Long Yu did not really provoke him, but the other party did not like him. This made Long Yu feel helpless. Speaking of which, with Izue's disappearance, would Wulong, Ji Bai, and the others put the blame on him? Long Yu thought about it and felt that it was very possible, but these guys had found the wrong person. Chapter 996. In Heavenly Mandate City, the assassination was over. No one knew that the culprit of this assassination, Ji Bai, had actually been killed. Gu Yixian and the others were still on guard against a possible second assassination attempt. However, even though Ji Bai was dead, it wasn't 100% certain that there would be no more danger. Long Yu knew very well that Ji Bai could not be the mastermind of the whole thing. There must be other powerful beings behind Ji Bai. Then, Long Yu changed his figure and was no longer the middle-aged man from before. From now on, that middle-aged man would never appear again. Now, Long Yu could change his figure and appearance at will. At this time, Long Yu had changed into a red-clothed young man with long hair. He was handsome, but there was a scar on his face. Overall, no one would think of him as Long Yu. Moreover, this red-clothed young man changed again and again. The object of Long Yu's transformation was a flame wolf demon, and then the flame wolf demon changed into the appearance of the red-clothed young man. In this way, no one could see the true identity of the current Long Yu. For the next 3 days, Long Yu helped to hunt and revive the souls of the dead in Heavenly Mandate City. Occasionally, there would be souls of the dead in the Imperial Realm, but he killed them in an instant. After 3 days, the situation in Heavenly Mandate City had almost stabilized. But next, the Dark Moon catastrophe was just beginning. When Long Yu came to the edge of the Heavenly Mandate City's walls and looked outside, he found that there were already tens of thousands of ancient resurrected souls outside the Heavenly Mandate City. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they charged toward the city. Outside the city, so many revived souls have gathered. Long Yu did not expect that the Dark Moon Cataclysm would have such a huge impact. Now, if the cultivators and the masses who could not hide in the Heavenly Mandate City were all torn apart by these revived souls, wouldn't they? Within the Heavenly Mandate City, most of the forces were used to besiege the resurrected souls that had appeared within the city. As for the resurrected souls that had gathered outside the city, since the entire Heavenly Mandate City had a defensive barrier, there was no need to pay attention to them for the time being. Anyway, those souls could not break through the defensive barrier of the Heavenly Mandate City for the time being. However, as time passed, more and more resurrected souls of the dead would gather outside. At that time, the defensive barrier of Heavenly Mandate City might not be able to withstand it. So many resurrected souls, what a powerful force. Kill. Long Yu did not hesitate at all. He condensed a primordial shadow in the Heavenly Mandate City to check on the situation in the city at any time. Although he could not use the eye of the dark shadow, he could still clearly see the situation in the entire city with the secret method of balance control. If anything happened in Heavenly Mandate City, Long Yu would be able to rush back in an instant. As for himself, he rushed out of the Heavenly Mandate City and tried to kill the resurrected souls that had gathered. Since Long Yu did not have many large-scale bombardment methods, and he had used them before, he had to get far away from the Heavenly Mandate City in order to be out of the sight of others and start killing these resurrected souls on a large scale. Long Yu first hid himself, and quickly flew thousands of miles away from Heavenly Mandate City. He found that the farther he was from Heavenly Mandate City, the fewer the resurrected souls gathered. It seemed that most of these ancient resurrected souls also liked to gather in crowded places. However, for Long Yu, this slightly smaller number was just right. After all, if there were too many, Long Yu might not be able to deal with them in time. Kill. After Long Yu made sure that there were no other living beings in the surroundings except for the resurrected souls, he revealed himself and instantly used a killing move. The Void Rend martial art technique suddenly appeared, instantly killing two late Emperor Realm souls that were leaning against each other. Two light blue streams of water appeared on Long Yu's hands. This was the Duancone Sacred Spring, an unbounded weapon. Ever since he had obtained this weapon, Long Yu had not used it very often. Now that he had the opportunity to use it, he could try to merge it with this weapon. Of course, it was not that easy to merge with an unbounded weapon. Long Yu was just giving it a try. It did not matter even if it did not work. Long Yu Fei stepped forward and absorbed the pure energy of heaven and earth that seeped out of their bodies after killing the souls of the two late Emperor Realm giant beasts. Even after absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from the two late Emperor Realm souls, Long Yu's inner world did not seem to change at all. The amount of spiritual energy was simply too little. Long Yu's inner world was currently 200 million li in circumference. Every 500 li in size meant that the space needed to expand his inner world would increase by a significant amount. The amount of spiritual energy required to expand his inner world to a 500 li radius was far greater than what Long Yu needed when his martial realm was relatively low. In fact, it was hundreds of times more than what he needed. It was easy to imagine that if Long Yu wanted to rely on killing these ancient resurrected souls to improve his martial realm, his progress would be very slow. However, as long as he kept improving, Long Yu would break through one day. However, along with the passage of time, the resurrected souls that were stimulated by the energy of the 9 Darkness Moon would definitely become stronger and stronger, and their bodies would contain even denser spiritual energy of the heavens and the earth. To Long Yu, that would be the time for him to truly reap the harvest and improve. After 3 days, the 9 Serenity Dark Moon's light had illuminated the entire Shenwu world. No matter where you were in Shenwu world, you were all bathed in this dark red light. The entire scene was a desolate one. Countless resurrected souls of giant beasts from the ancient era wreaked havoc throughout the Shenwu world. Countless martial cultivators died at the hands of these beasts and became a part of their power. The situation within the borders of the Northern Snow Empire was still relatively good. But in other places that were not prepared for the Dark Moon calamity, it was like hell. The casualties were extremely high. The 5 emperors were already regretting their decision. If they had known earlier, they would have announced the Dark Moon calamity. That way, the entire Shenwu world would have been prepared and the casualties would have been reduced by at least half. Unfortunately, when they received Shi Yingwu and Yu Hanxin's warning, even though they took it seriously, they didn't fully trust the 2 girls' words, which led to the current situation. Other than the Northern Snow Empire, one of the places that fared relatively well was the Alliance of 5 Emperors. Every place that the Alliance of 5 Emperors' influence reached had a certain degree of resistance. In the entire Shenwu world, as long as the Alliance of 5 Emperors had a teleportation formation, as soon as the Dark Moon calamity arrived, combatants from the Alliance of 5 Emperors would appear to help fight. Furthermore, the Alliance of 5 Emperors' teleportation formation had already set up quite a few defensive formations around it. In the entire Shenwu world, the several million Alliance of 5 Emperors' teleportation formations were now all guarded by combatants from the Alliance of 5 Emperors. Adding on the powerful martial cultivators from all over the world, as well as the combatants from various sects, they formed one defensive formation after another. For the time being, these defensive formations were still relatively stable and couldn't be broken through by the resurrected souls. In the places that were completely unprepared for the Dark Moon calamity, no matter if it was the martial cultivators from the Jianghu or the combatants from various sects, the safest place was near the alliance of 5 emperors' teleportation formation. Everyone in Shun Wu world subconsciously moved closer to the alliance of 5 emperors' influence. After all, the safest place was near the alliance of 5 emperors' forces. After 3 days, the overall situation of Shun Wu world had stabilized. The number of casualties was maintained within an acceptable range. This was also because the alliance of 5 emperors had made some internal preparations for the Dark Moon calamity. Long Yu recklessly killed the resurrected souls that kept appearing around him. Along the way, he also saw quite a few trapped civilians and martial cultivators from the Jianghu. When it was convenient, Long Yu saved all of them and temporarily placed them in his inner world. Almost none of these civilians and martial cultivators had reached the Emperor's Path hidden realm. So when faced with these resurrected souls, their only option was to run. During these 3 days of running, they had already endured countless threats and torture. So when they were saved by Long Yu, they were all extremely grateful. In fact, aside from Long Yu, there were also other Northern Snow Empire's official cleanup teams that were cleaning up the resurrected souls throughout the Northern Snow Empire. Because most of the resurrected souls weren't too strong at the moment, the cleanup went quite smoothly. They even managed to save more than half of the civilians and martial cultivators within the Northern Snow Empire and protected them. 72 battle fortresses built all around the Northern Snow Empire. The 9 Serenities Emissary, the Death Emissary, the Shura Emissary, the Huangquan Emissary, and the Hell Emissary. All of them were extremely powerful existences. Could it be that the Huangquan Emissary fell in that direction? As Long Yu grasped more 9 Serenities marks, his perception of the entire Shun Wu world, as well as the 9 Serenities realm, became more and more sensitive. Chapter 997. Long Yu didn't know much about the 9 Nether Envoys. Shi Yingwu obtained the Death Envoy's personal inheritance, so her current strength has reached a terrifying level, much stronger than any other cultivator of the same realm in Shenwu world. As for Shu Chan, although she also obtained the Azura Origin Stone and the Azura Ancient Palace, there was still a certain gap between her and Shi Yingwu, so they couldn't be discussed in the same breath for now. After all, Shu Chan only obtained an inanimate object, while Shi Yingwu obtained the Death Envoy's personal inheritance, possessing all sorts of martial skills. Huang Quan Divine Script. I remember that Dugu Yijian seems to have comprehended it. If I really find the place where the Huang Quan envoy died, I might be able to bring Dugu Yijian here to take a look. It would be great if he could obtain the Huang Quan inheritance. Long Yu thought to himself, now that he has the mark of the 9 Serenities, he doesn't care too much about the inheritance of the 4 9 Serenities envoys. But for others, this is the inheritance of a powerful combatant, perhaps even the strongest inheritance that could be obtained in Shenwu world. Without any hesitation, Long Yu teleported towards the place where he felt the Huang Quan inheritance. A red-clothed young man instantly stepped through the void of space, traversing a distance of a few 100,000 miles. When Long Yu opened his eyes, he found that there were quite a few Emperor-level ancient awakened souls wandering around this area. This was a mountain swamp, so these ancient awakened souls wandering around here clearly couldn't devour too many living beings, so why were they wandering around here? Could it be it's also for the Huang Quan envoy's inheritance? Long Yu thought to himself, feeling that this was a possibility. After all, the place where the Huang Quan envoy's inheritance was most likely filled with a lot of power, and the ancient awakened souls subconsciously wanted to devour more power. Long Yu noticed that there weren't many cultivators or civilians in this mountain swamp. Even a large group of Emperor-level ancient awakened souls didn't cause too much damage. Without a doubt, these revived souls didn't have the ability to find where the Huang Quan envoy died and devour the great power of Huang Quan's inheritance. This was to be expected. Otherwise, the countless Dark Moon cataclysm in the past would have allowed these revived souls to devour the Yellow Springs envoy's inheritance power. It is indeed in this mountain swamp. After arriving here, Long Yu's perception of the Yellow Springs inheritance's aura had become more sensitive. He could confirm that the Yellow Springs envoy had indeed left something here. With the 9 Helm mark, Long Yu would definitely be able to find it. But as soon as he appeared, 2 awakened souls noticed him and roared at him. They were the souls of 2 flying beasts with wings that spanned hundreds of meters. Both were mid-stage or late-stage soul emperors. Under the dark red moonlight, the phantoms of the dead souls of these 2 enormous flying beasts were like vengeful ghosts. They swept towards Long Yu at an unimaginable speed, bringing along gusts of chilly wind and 2 flaming tornadoes. It seemed as if they were going to burn Long Yu into ashes. Die! Long Yu didn't hesitate at all. A stream of light blue water appeared between his hands once more, and then it transformed into 2 light blue blades that instantly tore through the void and pierced into the souls of the 2 flying beasts. Spatial rending slash. Long Yu bellowed, and the light blue water congealed into a sharp blade that pierced through the vital points of the 2 flying beasts, dispersing the key point where the power of their souls were condensed. A single strike was enough to destroy the souls of 2 late-stage soul emperors. These souls were placed in the Netherworld realm by the Juyo Dragon Emperor to strengthen himself, just like how Long Yu placed the Ice God tribe's beasts in his inner world. When the 9 dark moons approached, the unique power of the 9 dark moons would awaken the souls of these ancient beasts, allowing them to instinctively devour all living beings around them. However, the awakened souls were lacking in intelligence. Compared to living beings, they were far too lacking. In the same realm, it was almost impossible for them to defeat living beings. Absorb. Long Yu absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered after the 2 awakened souls dissipated and flew towards the location where he sensed the Yellow Springs inheritance. In the meantime, the souls of many other beasts in the vicinity sensed Long Yu's presence and charged towards Long Yu. It was at this moment that Long Yu suddenly sensed a familiar figure in the swamp of the mountain range. Taking advantage of the moment when all the souls of the beasts were attracted to him, the figure rushed towards the location of the Yellow Springs inheritance. Duguijian? Long Yu couldn't help but be astonished. He had just thought of Duguijian, but he didn't expect that Duguijian had already arrived here in advance and had been hiding here for a long time. Duguijian had comprehended the power of the Yellow Springs and Azura divine runes. His ability to conceal himself was also quite outstanding. Even when Long Yu had just arrived, he hadn't been able to discover him. It was only when Duguijian suddenly moved that Long Yu's balance control was able to sense him. After all, Long Yu couldn't use the Umbra Eye at the moment. If he only relied on balance control, his perception would be greatly reduced. Only by combining the 2 would Long Yu be able to sense everything around him. Interesting. Then I'll help you deal with these beasts, and you can explore the Yellow Springs inheritance by yourself. Since Duguijian was here, Long Yu was too lazy to search for the Yellow Springs inheritance. He might as well kill more beasts and step into the late-stage Emperor realm as soon as possible. Duguijian definitely wouldn't know that the red-robed young man who suddenly appeared and helped him lure away the souls of the beasts was Long Yu. But that didn't matter. Long Yu didn't plan on revealing his true form anyway. Although Consort Yu's restriction could shield Long Yu from other people's deductions, it couldn't block others from deducing the people around him. If Long Yu revealed himself, others could easily deduce his existence from the people around him. For now, Long Yu had to be cautious. Before he fully grasped the 9 nether mark, he didn't want to appear in his true form in front of others. Although Duguijian didn't know who this red-robed young man was, but since this person helped him lure away the souls of the beasts, then it was time for him to act. Otherwise, he might not have such an opportunity in the future. Duguijian had been searching for half a year and finally found some clues about the Yellow Springs inheritance. How could he give up now? If the Dark Moon Calamity came any later, Duguijian would have already obtained the entire Yellow Springs inheritance. Space-splitting slash. Long Yu's hands were wrapped in light blue water. They were extremely agile and translucent. They constantly turned into blades, and pierced through the souls of the ancient beasts, completely shattering their phantoms, leaving behind only the condensed spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The consumption is too great. Although Long Yu's battle was going smoothly, the consumption of his energy was also very large. What put him in an awkward situation was that he couldn't use the Soul Seal siphon. In other words, the siphon totem he used to store energy couldn't be detonated to restore his energy at this moment. He could only restore his energy by absorbing some shadow-attributed exotic beast crystals. Otherwise, he would be in a very dangerous situation every time he exhausted all his energy. Fortunately, he had an almost inexhaustible supply of shadow-attributed exotic beast crystals. Of course, he wouldn't forget to bring such a strategic reserve with him. Ever since he ran out of energy in the wreckage of the Sufferer's minor world, Long Yu was very mindful of this aspect. One by one, the exotic beast crystals were completely absorbed by Long Yu and turned to dust. At the same time, Long Yu continued to kill beasts after beasts to revive their souls and absorb pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It was a pity that even after killing over 100 Emperor-level dead souls, Long Yu was still unable to expand his inner world by another 10 million miles. Instead, he was only able to expand it by a little more than 1 million miles. It was extremely difficult to increase one's cultivation realm. If Long Yu was like this, then there was no need to even mention the others. The reason why Long Yu could step into the mid-stage Emperor realm was because he consumed too many precious pills that ordinary people couldn't get their hands on. If it wasn't for that, he probably wouldn't even be able to step into the Emperor realm. After all, even Yuhan Xin, who originally surpassed Long Yu by so much, was only at the mid-stage Emperor realm. It wasn't hard to imagine just how difficult it was to increase one's martial realm in the Emperor realm. After killing all the ancient beasts and reviving their souls, there were no more powerful existences in the swamp of the mountain range. Dugu Ijian's journey was smooth sailing, and he quickly found the entrance to the Yellow Springs Inheritance Land. Using the power of the Yellow Springs divine script that he had comprehended, he attempted to open the Yellow Springs Inheritance Land. Long Yu was basically protecting Dugu Ijian. After all, these Emperor-level ancient beast souls were too powerful for the Emperor realm Dugu Ijian to handle. Not to mention Dugu Ijian. Even the Emperor realm Long Yu at the time couldn't handle these beasts. Do your best, Long Yu thought to himself. But very quickly, his expression changed, because he sensed an unusual presence that was spreading throughout the entire Shunwu world. This unusual aura was extremely far away from him, but he was extremely sensitive to it. This was because this eerie aura originated from the Sea of Deathly Aura. The Sea of Death aura that surrounded the entire Shunwu world was one of the Juyo Dragon Emperor's 7 great thaumaturgies. It hadn't changed at all, as if it hadn't changed at all. But now, the Death aura from the Sea of Death aura was spreading towards the Shunwu world. This caused Long Yu's expression to change. What exactly is happening? The aura of the Dark Nine Abyss Moon and the aura of the Sea of Deathly Aura seem to be condensing and fusing together. If this continues, I wonder what special changes will happen to the Dark Moon disaster. Oh no! Could it be that the remnant consciousness of the Dragon Emperor of the Dark Nine Abyss has been completely sealed, so the 7 Forbidden Lands are undergoing special unknown changes? Chapter 998. While Long Yu was guarding this swamp mountain range, waiting for Dugu Ijian to break through the entrance and truly enter the Huang Quan Envoy's inheritance ground, he was also using the 9 Nethermark to sense the movements of the entire 9 Netherworld. After such a long time, perhaps it was because the Earth God race beasts couldn't sense the existence of the Earth God race's holy relic. Or perhaps it was because too many rulers' secret realm beasts were sacrificed in the 9 Netherworld, causing the Earth God race beasts to stop appearing. The entire 9 Netherworld was relatively peaceful. There weren't as many rulers' secret realm combatants fighting each other. But now, as the 9 Dark Moon and the Sea of Death got closer to each other, an unprecedented change occurred. Apparently, It was because the remnant of Juyo Dragon Emperor's consciousness was completely sealed away. The power of the 9 Dark Moon and the Sea of Death interacted with each other, causing the Sea of Death to spread towards Shenwu World. As everyone knows, the Sea of Death is a land of death for Shenwu World's cultivators. There's no way for them to survive once they enter. Even the normal ruler's secret realm cultivators from beyond the heavens, the Lushan clan, wouldn't dare to recklessly enter the Sea of Death. If the Sea of Death really did spread to Shenwu World under the influence of the 9 Dark Moon, it would definitely cause the entire Shenwu World to be destroyed. Even the Lushan clan wouldn't be able to stop it. It really is spreading towards Shenwu World, although the speed isn't too fast right now. If it continues like this, the situation isn't good. Long Yu furrowed his brows. In this situation, where the Sea of Death and the 9 Dark Moon interacted with each other and suddenly mutated, no one would be able to do anything about it. Only he who has the 9 Nethermark can stop this from happening. But the crucial point is that Long Yu only has a 16% control over the 9 Nethermark. It's not enough to affect the 7 Forbidden Zones. Fortunately, the Sea of Death aura isn't spreading too quickly towards Shenwu World. It's only moving bit by bit, so I still have time to think of a solution. Long Yu casually killed another primordial bee soul that had just been awakened. Then he saw that not far away, Duguijian had finally used the power of the Yellow Springs divine runes to open the tomb of the Yellow Springs envoy and stepped inside. Balance control. Conceal. Long Yu raised his hand and unleashed a balance secret art to conceal the aura of the entire Yellow Springs envoy burial ground. This way, the aura of the Yellow Springs envoy's inheritance would not spread out and be sensed by the surrounding revived souls. Otherwise, when Duguijian obtained the inheritance and came out, he would definitely face another round of danger. The revived souls might even charge in and threaten Duguijian. This was something that Long Yu couldn't allow, so he directly used the 6th level of the secret art, balance control, to conceal the aura of this place. After that, Long Yu didn't stay here any longer. With a single thought, he created a spatial warp tunnel. As soon as he stepped into it, he was transported to the edge of Shenwu World. All around Shenwu World, there was nothing but a barren wasteland, so the Sea of Death aura didn't get discovered by anyone, nor did it cause any casualties. Long Yu first went to the barren desert where the Earth God race's sacred relic was. This place was one of the edges of Shenwu World, originally only a few thousand miles away from the Sea of Death aura, but now, that distance had been shortened by half. In fact, as Long Yu hovered in the air above the Earth God race's strange beast fortresses, he could see the Sea of Death aura surging from the horizon, spreading towards him. At this rate, in just a few days, this entire barren desert would be completely covered by the Sea of Death aura. Following that, the Sea of Death aura would spread to even deeper parts of Shenwu World, threatening all living beings in Shenwu World. The Earth God race, strange beasts of this world, seemed to have all disappeared. Long Yu scowled. Sensing the presence of the Earth God fortresses below, he couldn't sense any signs of life from the strange beasts of the Earth God race. It seems that due to the matter of the Earth God race's sacred relic, the Earth God race took all the strange beasts away. As for where they went, it was obviously to the Earth God race's territory in Beyond Heaven World. The Beyond Heaven World was divided according to race, and the human race was one of the most powerful forces here, as was the Earth God race, so they naturally had their own territory in Beyond Heaven World. Long Yu didn't know if the Earth God race strange beasts would send more strange beasts to the 9 Netherrealm, but from the looks of it, that was unlikely. After all, even if they came, they wouldn't be able to find the sacred relic, so they would only be sacrificing themselves for nothing. If it was a strange beast below the ruler's secret realm, the Earth God race didn't seem to care too much about it, but a strange beast that had reached the ruler's secret realm was definitely very valuable, so they wouldn't just send it out to sacrifice itself. Long Yu shook his head. Now wasn't the time to think about this. The most important thing now was to stop the Sea of Death aura from spreading. In order to prevent this from happening, the most important thing was to find out why the sea of deathly aura had spread over. This matter could only be accomplished by Long Yu alone. Even if other forces, including the Lushan clan, came to the Nine Nether Realm, they wouldn't be able to solve this problem, because the only proof of control of the Nine Nether Realm, the Nine Nether Mark, was Long Yu's body. Even if other powerful existences with the same cultivation as the Juyo Dragon Emperor came to the Nine Nether Realm, they wouldn't be able to stop this, because when outsiders came to the Nine Nether Realm, their strength would be greatly suppressed by the power of the Nine Nether Realm. There was a repulsive force between small worlds, and in the Juyo Dragon Emperor's small world of the Nine Nether Realm, anyone else's small world would be suppressed, and at least half of their strength would be suppressed. Long Yu carefully observed for a while, and discovered that within the surging sea of death aura, there seemed to be some more ferocious souls that were reviving, and each of these souls was huge enough to cover the sky, and they were existences that were at least on the same level as the Emperor. Oh no! Long Yu's expression darkened, because he saw that there were existences that he couldn't see clearly among these souls. They were existences that had definitely surpassed the Emperor, and were at least at the ruler's secret realm. Within the sea of death aura, because of the power of the 9 dark moons, even these rulers' secret realm, ancient beasts, were revived. That was too terrifying. As Long Yu looked around, just on this side of the sea of death aura, there were at least 2 rulers' secret realm, ancient beast souls, not to mention the sea of death aura surrounding the entire Shenwu world. There were at least 1,000 rulers' secret realm, ancient beast souls in the entire Shenwu world. This discovery caused Long Yu to fall into a state of shock. This time's Dark Moon calamity seemed to be too big of a problem. If they couldn't solve it soon, the entire Shenwu world would really be destroyed. Even the spread of the Sea of Death aura was related to the revival of these rulers' secret realm, ancient beast souls. Long Yu didn't have any more time to waste. There's only one way to find out the cause of all this, and that's to go directly to the source, which is the 9 Dark Moon. Since the beginning of time, no one has ever been able to enter the 9 Dark Moon, but now that I have the 9 Yu mark, I might be able to go and investigate. Long Yu thought to himself. Without a doubt, this was going to be a very dangerous journey. One wrong step, and he wouldn't be able to return alive. But if he didn't go, the entire Shenwu world would be destroyed. At that time, who knows how the forces from beyond the heavens, the Lushan clan, would react? Even if Long Yu wanted to safely grasp all of the 9 Yu marks, it would be impossible for him to do so. That's why investigating the 9 Dark Moon was a must. Long Yu wanted to wait patiently for more ancient beast souls to reach late-stage Emperor Realm to perform a simulation on Wulong, then take revenge on him. But he didn't expect this to happen. Without a doubt, Long Yu didn't have much time left. Within the Sea of Death aura, countless ancient beast souls that were large enough to block out the sun were surging in from outside Shenwu world. Following this, the Sea of Death aura quickly spread. If this continues, before the Dark Moon calamity is over, the entire Shenwu world will be covered by the Sea of Death aura. I really don't have much time left. Long Yu felt a chill in his heart, then immediately acted. He briefly explained the current situation, recorded it in a jade tag, then sent it back to the center of the Northern Snow Empire, into Yu Hanxin's hands. I'm sure that Yu Hanxin will know what to do after reading the contents of the jade tag, because the Northern Snow Empire was located at the edge of Shenwu world. Even though it wasn't at the very edge, it would still be affected by the Sea of Death aura very quickly. To ensure the safety of the Northern Snow Empire, it would be best to move the entire Northern Snow Empire to the center of the empire, where the 5 Emperors' Holy City was located. The 5 Emperors' Holy City was located at the very center of Shenwu world, so if the Sea of Death aura continues to spread, the 5 Emperors' Holy City would be the safest place in the entire empire. Of course, if Long Yu can't stop all of this, then even hiding in the 5 Emperors' Holy City would be useless. It's easy to imagine how shocked Yu Hanxin would be when she receives this jade tag. They spent a lot of effort to prepare for the Dark Moon calamity in the Northern Snow Empire, But the Dark Moon calamity caused such a sudden change that messed up all of their plans. After sending the Jade tag to Yu Hanshin, Long Yu immediately took action. He began to create spatial warp paths one after another, heading towards the 9 dark moons of Shunwu World. Chapter 999. Long Yu quickly teleported towards the location of the 9th dark moon. No one knew where he was going. The closer he got to the 9th dark moon, the more Long Yu felt the bloody aura engulfing him, making it hard for him to breathe. This aura was the power of the 9th dark moon. It was this aura that kept other ruler mystic realm cultivators from casually going to the 9th dark moon. However, Long Yu relied on the 9 nether mark in his dantian to resist the corrosion of this aura. Although it was a bit uncomfortable, it wouldn't affect him too much. Unlike other people, if they were to be corroded by this aura for too long, they would definitely be corroded to death. I don't know how I can stop the Dark Moon calamity, but no matter what, I have to give it my all, otherwise the entire Shenwu world will be destroyed. Long Yu's expression was solemn. He kept urging the power of the 9 nether mark to bring him closer and closer to the distant 9th dark moon. After more than a dozen teleportations, more than 2 hours had passed. Long Yu had finally arrived at a place several 100 million kilometers away from the 9 underworld moon. He only needed to teleport once more and he would arrive. At this distance, Long Yu could already clearly see what the 9 nether dark moon was. It was actually a blood-red crescent moon-shaped palace. The entire palace looked as if it was dyed in blood, giving off an oppressive feeling when one approached it. It was easy to imagine that if this was used by the former Geo Dragon Emperor to summon the 9th dark moon, how destructive would it be? Now, even though the Geo Dragon Emperor had been completely sealed, his innate thaumaturgy, 9 dark moon, was still as shocking as ever. From afar, Long Yu still couldn't see the details of the Dark Moon Palace that was flickering with endless red light. He had no choice but to condense another spatial passageway, and then he stepped into it and walked directly towards the 9 nether dark moon. As soon as he appeared in the spatial passageway, Long Yu felt an incomparably bloody aura assaulting his face. The 9 nether dark moon had already appeared in front of him, and it was less than 50 kilometers away. What kind of terrifying and awe-inspiring palace was this? Even though Long Yu could rely on the 9 nether mark to resist the corrosion of the palace's power, he couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. This made Long Yu want to get as far away from this palace as possible. Even Long Yu, who had mastered 16% of the 9 nether mark, had this kind of feeling, let alone others. Even a sovereign realm expert wouldn't dare to come so close to the 9th dark moon. This 9th dark moon is indeed a palace with a total of 3 floors. If I want to explore its secrets, I have to go to the last floor. I wonder what's in the first 2 floors. Long Yu calmed his mind and walked towards the entrance of the palace on the 9th dark moon. The bloody aura was constantly eroding him, causing him to be unable to completely calm down. When he stepped into the blood-red door of the 9 serene dark moon palace, it was as though there were countless voices from hell entering his ears, causing him to instantly fall into chaos. Pure world physique. Long Yu's spirit shook, and he immediately took the initiative to awaken the secret martial arts technique that he had cultivated, the pure world body. He had cultivated to the 3rd layer of the pure world body, and he had finally gotten rid of those sounds that seemed to have come from hell, and his entire person had returned to a clear and bright state. However, within the 9 serene dark moon, even if Long Yu possessed the 3rd layer of the world-purifying physique, his mind was constantly being corroded by the blood-red bloody aura, causing him to be unable to concentrate. He took the opportunity to observe the entire 1st floor of the Palace of the Dark Moon, and found that it was an extremely vast palace space. Everywhere was blood-red, and it was filled with the aura of hell. There were strange forces constantly eroding towards Long Yu, affecting his mind. There seemed to be nothing in the entire 1st floor of the palace. How can I go to the 2nd floor? Long Yu scowled. As soon as he thought about this, a violent killing intent appeared in his mind, causing his eyes to become bloodshot. Even under the suppression of the pure world physique, Long Yu still felt a strong urge to kill. If it weren't for the double protection of the 9 Serenities mark and the pure world physique, Long Yu would have already gone insane. Balance control. Long Yu quickly used the secret technique to investigate his surroundings. After all, he was at the 6th stage of balance control, so he was very sensitive to the power of his surroundings. Long Yu found that the power that was affecting his mind was floating around in strands within this palace. Using balance control to investigate, he was able to find a way to avoid it. Just like that, Long Yu began to move forward, searching around the palace while avoiding the strands of bloody power, ensuring that he wouldn't be affected by the bloody, killing intent. Shenwu World. The Sea of Death aura was in chaos. Countless ancient giant beast souls from the ruler's secret realm were awakening, rushing towards Shenwu World. Not only that, but they also carried the endless Sea of Death aura to the edge of Shenwu World, covering a larger area of Shenwu World. Of course, this phenomenon was quickly found out by the Alliance of 5 Emperors. Everyone who found out about this fell into an endless state of shock and fear. When the news finally reached the 5 Emperors finally reported it to the Outer Space faction, the Lushan clan. After a while, the Lushan clan finally sent a ruler's secret realm combatant to Shenwu World to investigate. If the situation was true, this combatant would request reinforcements from the Lushan clan. When this ruler's secret realm combatant arrived at Shenwu World, he immediately felt that the presence of the 9 dark moons and the Sea of Death aura wasn't right, as if they had fallen into some sort of berserk state. Of course, the most important factor was the Sea of Death aura. There were at least tens of thousands of rulers' secret realm ancient giant bee souls inside. If they were to charge in Shenwu World, they would definitely turn the entire Shenwu World upside down. The ruler's secret realm combatant from the Lushan clan began killing the ruler's secret realm ancient giant bee souls while requesting reinforcements from the Lushan clan. Very quickly, a large group of ruler's secret realm combatants arrived at Shenwu World from outer space. Together with the person from before, they began to deal with the ancient giant beast souls in the Sea of Death aura. However, there were only about 20 rulers' secret realm combatants that were sent here, but the number of rulers' secret realm ancient giant bee souls that were charging into Shenwu World numbered in the tens of thousands. No matter how much effort they put into killing these souls, it was impossible to kill them all. However, these 20 rulers' secret realm combatants were quite excited. After all, killing these souls would allow them to absorb a lot of heaven and earth spiritual energy. It was very hard for them to increase their cultivation, but this heaven and earth spiritual energy could be used to cultivate secret martial arts. For example, the Symbol clan could use it to cultivate the undying purple blood. The higher the cultivation, the more terrifying the recovery effect. To these rulers' secret realm combatants, what happened to Shenwu World had nothing to do with them. They only wanted to kill as many rulers' secret realm ancient giant bee souls as it was useful to them. Because of this, there were still many areas where the Sea of Death aura didn't have any ruler's secret realm combatants to deal with. At the Northern Snow Empire's location, when Yu Hanxin received the Jade Tag from Long Yu, she immediately organized her people to retreat. Unfortunately, even if all the spatial beast crystals in the Northern Snow Empire were gathered together, they could only activate the teleportation formation a few thousand times to teleport people to the 5 Emperors' holy city. Because of that, it was impossible for the trillions of people in the Northern Snow Empire to all escape. Yu Hanxin could only prioritize the sects and families that had the potential to develop and leave. As for the others, they would either have to defend the Northern Snow Empire to their deaths or travel to the center of Shenwu World on foot. However, the journey outside the Northern Snow Empire was filled with danger. As the Sea of Death aura went berserk, some of the Death aura from the Sea of Death aura had already drifted to Shenwu World. This terrifying Death aura actually increased the strength of the revived behemoth souls in Shunwu world by quite a bit. Even Emperor Realm and Emperor Realm behemoth souls became very common. You could say that in the entire Shunwu world, besides the 5 Emperors' holy city, there wasn't a single place that was absolutely safe. Even hiding in the 5 Emperors' holy city could result in a sudden awakening of the behemoth souls and devour them. Shunwu world was currently facing the worst situation in its history. Even when the Lushan clan sent people to help, they couldn't alleviate the overall situation at all. However, from the looks of it, the Lushan clan didn't seem to want to send any more people. This made everyone in the alliance of 5 emperors worried. Could it be that Shunwu world wouldn't be able to survive this dark moon calamity? There had never been a dark moon cataclysm that could reach such a scale this time. Although the Sea of Death aura was still quite a distance away from the 5 Emperors' holy city, as long as it couldn't be eliminated, it would eventually spread and drown the 5 Emperors' holy city, as well as the entire Shunwu world. Northern Snow Empire, Azura City. Shuchan was leading everyone to fend off the constantly awakening ancient behemoth souls while worrying about Duguijian. After all, Duguijian had already left for a very long time and hadn't returned yet. Would he be in any danger? But in the current situation, Shuchan couldn't possibly leave Azura City to search for Duguijian, because Azura City was already in a very dangerous situation. The ancient behemoth souls were continuously awakening. The situation inside Azura City was still fine, but outside the city, there was already a sea of behemoth souls surrounding the entire Azura City. There were at least 10,000 King Realm behemoth souls. Chapter 1000. Azura City was defended by Shu Chan's Azura Ancient Palace, so the situation was not too bad. Although they couldn't clear the giant beasts outside the city and revive the souls, they wouldn't be able to invade the city. Heavenly Mandate City, on the other hand, was guarded by Sunset Dance and the Ancient Palace of Death. Together with the other cultivators, the city was similarly impregnable. Even if a sovereign-level soul appeared, the city would be able to hold it off for a moment. Then, Yulin Feng and Yushaoyin would go up and kill it. Red Emperor City was the most secure one, because Xing Efei and Dao Jingtian were both at the 2-star Emperor level. Any revived souls that dared to invade the city would be killed by them in an instant. North Snow Imperial City was guarded by Yu Hanxin and Nalanjun. Although these two were only at the Emperor level in martial arts and hadn't reached the Emperor level, their combat power was enough to fight against the souls of giant beasts at the Emperor level. Most importantly, these 4 main cities all had teleportation matrices. Once a 2-star Emperor or even 3-star Emperor level soul appeared, Xing Efei or Dao Jingtian would immediately arrive and kill it. For Xing Efei and Dao Jingtian, even if they were to face a revived soul of the 4-star Emperor level, they could still defeat it. First, they already had the ability to challenge those at a higher level. Second, the real strength of the revived souls was slightly weaker than martial arts cultivators of the same level. It had been almost a day since Long Yu left for the 9 Dark Moon. At this time, the entire divine battle world didn't have the distinction of day and night. No matter when or where, it was all scarlet, as if it was dyed with blood. Red Emperor City. Xing Efei and Dao Jingtian split up outside the Red Emperor City to kill the souls of giant beasts at the Emperor level. They had gained a lot and were only a little bit away from the 3-star Emperor level. As long as they took one more step, they would both be able to step into the realm of the 3-star Emperor. Xing Efei had just killed an ancient revived soul at the 1-star Emperor level. He looked into the distance with a solemn expression. He could already vaguely see the Sea of Death aura at the end of the horizon, surging and spreading under the scarlet light of the dark moon. Recently, many martial arts cultivators from other countries had fled to the Northern Snow Empire from the edge of the divine battle world. Only 1 in 10 could make it to the Northern Snow Empire alive. The closest city in this direction was the Red Emperor City. So Xing Efei took in all the martial arts cultivators that escaped here and moved them towards the holy city of the 5 emperors. It was too dangerous to travel on foot, so Xing Fa provided a teleportation circle for these martial arts cultivators, allowing them to travel to the inner parts of the Northern Snow Empire, which was relatively safer. However, this was only temporary. In Xing Fa's eyes, the Sea of Death aura was already surging and spreading. It wouldn't even take a day for the Sea of Death aura to drown the entire Red Emperor's city. At that time, not a single living being in the entire Red Emperor city would survive. Xing Fa fell into deep thought. How do I get through this? Or do I have to give up in the end? Palace of the Dark Moon. Long Yu had been wandering around the first floor for a very long time. During this time, he had already gotten used to the stench of blood in this floor and was able to control the bloodlust and killing intent inside his body. Furthermore, through balance control and the 9 Serenities mark, Long Yu could faintly feel that this entire first floor was actually a divine formation. When the Geo Dragon Emperor was still alive, he probably set up a divine formation to prevent others from entering. But with the 9 Serenities mark and the pure world body, Long Yu was able to force his way in without being affected or controlled by it. Balance control, come out. Long Yu's eyes flickered. Relying on balance control, he finally found a few weak spots in the first floor, then used the power of the 9 Serenities mark inside his body to purposely destroy these weak spots. If Long Yu wasn't mistaken, these weak spots were the loopholes that the Geo Dragon Emperor left behind for himself. If he borrowed his body to be reborn, he would be able to use these loopholes to break through the entire divine formation. Very quickly, Long Yu found that his guess was correct. As he destroyed the weak spots one by one, the stench of blood and killing intent on the first floor of the Palace of the Dark Moon was slowly weakening. However, this was only the first floor's divine formation. It wasn't the power that could affect Shunwu World and the Sea of Death aura. To solve the crisis that Shunwu World was currently facing, just breaking this first floor's divine formation was far from enough. When he was cracking the first layer of the divine formation, Long Yu was able to comprehend the method to use this divine formation. As he had already explored the entire divine formation, he had already thoroughly analyzed the entire divine formation using the balance control secret technique. Grade 3 divine formation, Crimson Blood. Long Yu was a bit happy. This was a grade 3 divine formation on the same level as the divine formation 9 Abyss. Unfortunately, if he used the power of the 9 Serenities godly script, it wouldn't be able to reach its full potential. The godly script that could truly unleash the power of this divine formation was the Berserker-type godly script. However, if Long Yu used the 9 Serenities godly script, he would be able to unleash 70 to 80% of its power, which wasn't bad. This grade 3 divine formation's effect was to trap someone inside a crimson blood formation, causing them to lose themselves in the stench of blood and killing intent, as well as to erode their consciousness. Compared to the divine formation 9 Abyss, this one's main target was the enemy's mental state, so it was much harder to defend against. Even someone with an extremely powerful physique could be hit by it. If I want to successfully use this grade 3 divine formation, Crimson Blood, I'll need a bit more time to study it, but it shouldn't take too long. Once I understand it, I'll be able to use this mental attack. Long Yu was quite happy about this, but he knew that the most important thing right now was to resolve the huge crisis that the entire Shenwu world was facing. If there were no accidents, the Sea of Death aura that was constantly spreading inland had most likely already reached the Northern Snow Empire. If they didn't hurry up, the Northern Snow Empire would suffer heavy losses. When Long Yu destroyed the entire Scarlet Blood God array, several circular moon-shaped arch doors appeared in the palace on the first floor of the 9 Netherdark Moon. It seemed that through these moon-shaped arch doors, one could teleport to different areas. What's going on? Doesn't this Palace of the Dark Moon only have 3 floors in total? There are a total of 12 moon-shaped doors. Could it be that they lead to 12 different places? Long Yu was a bit confused about this, but he didn't have any time to waste right now. After thinking for a bit, he randomly picked a moon-shaped door and stepped into it. As soon as he passed through the door, the aura around his body suddenly changed. Originally, the first floor of the palace was covered by the crimson blood formation, illuminated by a blood-red light. But now, what appeared in front of Long Yu was a scene of birds chirping and flowers blooming. It was hard to imagine that such a scene could appear on the second floor of the Nine Dark Moon. Flowers, grass, insects, birds, these extremely fragile life forms. How could they exist in a place like the Nine Dark Moon? Long Yu immediately realized that something wasn't right, but when he focused his mind, he still couldn't see any signs of illusions around him. This isn't an illusion? This time, Long Yu was truly surprised. He then realized that this entire space was filled with such a scene. Birds chirping and flowers blooming. A small bridge over a flowing river, mist floating in the air. This was a truly refreshing place. What's going on? Long Yu couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. He wandered around in this space, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary. He even tried to capture the flowers and birds, only to find that these flowers and birds were actually real. The entire space seemed to be boundless. All the power of the divine script seemed to be sealed here, unable to be used, so Long Yu couldn't even fly quickly. Looking into the distance, other than the flowers and trees, there was only the blue sky and white clouds in this space, nothing out of the ordinary. After staying in this place for a while, the anxiety in Long Yu's heart slowly subsided. His mind gradually became calm. Smelling the flowers and grass, listening to the chirping of the birds and the chirping of the insects, he suddenly felt like he didn't want to leave this place. But suddenly, the obsession in his heart reminded him of the current situation. The entire Shenwu world was facing a calamity. Although he didn't know what was going on in this beautiful space, Long Yu believed that this was definitely left behind by the Juyo Dragon Emperor to prevent others from entering the Ninth Dark Moon. But the Juyo Dragon Emperor would definitely leave a path for himself, one that leads to the deepest part of the Ninth Dark Moon. As soon as Long Yu thought of this, he immediately began to search this space. Although he couldn't use any divine script, thaumaturgy, or martial skill, balance control was a secret martial art, not a thaumaturgy or martial skill. Balance control spread out in all directions. Long Yu wanted to find anything out of the ordinary in this space. Even the slightest anomaly could be an escape route left behind by the Juyo Dragon Emperor. I need to be fast otherwise. Long Yu clenched his teeth and began to traverse through this peaceful space. Soon, he discovered that there seemed to be something strange at the bottom of a lake. He jumped into the lake and found a crescent-shaped door at the bottom of the lake. He didn't know where this door led to, but it was definitely a way to leave this space. There's no hope in staying here. If that's the case, I might as well go through the crescent-shaped door and try my luck. Long Yu had already made up his mind. He directly swam to the bottom of the lake and swam into the crescent-shaped arch door. What appeared in front of him was actually a bustling city. Within this city, people came and went, and business was flourishing. Chapter 1001. Long Yu appeared in the middle of a bustling city. Outside of the city, there was nothing but a vast expanse of whiteness. There was no way to tell what was there. The citizens of the city didn't seem to be curious about what was outside of the city. They simply lived in the city, enjoying the sunrise and sunset, living and reproducing. As Long Yu walked on the streets of the city, he felt like he was one with the city. There were even people greeting him with smiles. Everything was perfect. There wasn't a single trace of evil in the entire city. Balance control. Long Yu's mind was clear, so he quickly regained his senses and began to use the balance control secret art. If he wasn't mistaken, he would find a crescent-shaped door exactly the same as the one he saw before in a certain corner of the city. Although he didn't know where he would go if he followed these doors, the only thing Long Yu could do right now was to follow them down. Over there, Long Yu quickly found out that in the middle of this bustling city, there was a large building with a crescent-shaped door. But that building was being guarded by quite a few people, so it wouldn't be easy to get in. All the divine script power in my body has been sealed. I can't use any martial skills, thaumaturgy. I can't even use the laws of heaven and earth. Long Yu was very clear about his current state. The only thing he could rely on was his powerful body. The next question was, should he use his body to force his way through? Shenwu world is in danger. If I waste too much time here, the entire Shenwu world will be destroyed. From the looks of it, we can only force our way through this path. Long Yu quickly made up his mind and quickly ran towards the building in the middle of the city. Very quickly, he reached the building's entrance. Two young male guards in armor came forward, wanting to stop Long Yu. However, why would Long Yu place them in his eyes? Relying on his powerful, fleshly body, Long Yu directly overthrew the two young male guards and charged into the palace building. This scene caused countless people in the surroundings to shout. Countless people rushed over, and from the looks of it, they wanted to capture Long Yu. However, Long Yu did not stop at all. He pushed aside the guards who blocked his way. These guards were just like him, ordinary people without any power. However, they did not have a body as strong as Long Yu's. Of course, they could not stop Long Yu from advancing. Go! Soon, Long Yu charged into the palace, and with a leap, he stepped into the crescent-shaped arch. The space around them changed again. At the beginning, I saw a total of 12 crescent-shaped arches. Do I have to walk through all 12 of them to reach the deepest part of a 9-dark moon? Long Yu pondered in his heart. He discovered that the third space he had arrived at was a desolate mountain forest. There were many primitive villages scattered around this desolate forest, and there were some demonic beasts living in the forest. They coexisted with the various primitive villages and competed with each other, reproducing for generations. Look for the crescent-shaped arch. Long Yu knew very well what he had to do. He immediately began searching, hoping to find the crescent-shaped arch as soon as possible and leave this space to the next one. While Long Yu was traveling between the worlds of the crescent-shaped arch, Shenwu World, the Northern Snow Empire, the Red Emperor City, was facing its biggest crisis in history. An endless sea of death aura had finally spread from the edge of Shenwu World to within 100 miles of the Red Emperor City. Even standing on the walls of the Red Emperor City, normal cultivators could see the sea of death aura, as well as the souls of numerous giant ancient beasts roaming within it. Even Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian couldn't help but shiver when they saw such a scene. These giant ancient beast souls were all at the level of the ruler's secret realm. Every single one of them was at least a few dozen miles long. Their bodies were so large that they covered the sky, and every step they took caused the earth to tremble. Even a beast cultivator at the level of the emperor wouldn't have such a huge body in their true form. In front of these ancient beast souls, humans were as insignificant as ants. But size wasn't the biggest difference. The biggest difference between a normal cultivator and these ancient beast souls was their cultivation. Each of these ancient beast souls were at the ruler's secret realm when they were alive, and each of them had a small world inside their body. Although their small worlds had been destroyed, after they were revived, their true strength far surpassed any cultivator at the level of the emperor. With just one move, or even just one move based on instinct, these ancient beast souls could easily kill any cultivator that hadn't reached the ruler's secret realm. Just in the eyes of Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian, there were 3 terrifying ancient beast souls rushing towards the Red Emperor City. Has everyone in the Red Emperor City been evacuated? A solemn expression appeared on Xing Fa's face as he asked Dao Jingtian. Everyone has left. It looks like we can't protect the city anymore. Dao Jingtian said solemnly. Both of them were wearing the Red Emperor's cloak, and their scarlet cloaks fluttered in the wind. Even though both of them had broken through to the 3-star Emperor realm at the same time, there was nothing they could do in the face of the sea of death chi and the ruler's secret realm souls. The Red Emperor City was most likely going to fall. It's about time. Let's go. If we don't leave now, we'll be stuck here forever. Xing Fa said. Let's retreat to Azura City for the time being. Azura City is the closest to here, so we must evacuate the people in Azura City. Dao Jingtian nodded his head and said. However, just as the two of them were about to leave, the sky suddenly changed color. In the sky behind the Red Emperor's city, a purple light rumbled in the sky, followed by an incomparably terrifying aura, as if it could split the heavens and earth, sweeping away all the clouds in the sky. "What's that?" Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian raised their heads and looked at the sky, only to see an extremely fast purple light streaking across the sky, rushing into the Sea of Death Qi not far in front of them. Immediately after, a terrifying explosion resounded in the sky. This explosion nearly caused the entire earth to collapse, and several bottomless abysses appeared on the ground near the Red Emperor city. "What kind of expert is this?" Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian both sucked in a breath of cold air. They stared fixedly at the Sea of Death Qi in front of them, only to see that the Sea of Death Qi had been scattered by the purple light. As for the soul of one of the sovereign secret realm ancient beasts, it was directly destroyed by the terrifying destructive power of the purple light. In just an instant, it disappeared from the world without a trace. Could it be that the alliance of 5 emperors invited a sovereign secret realm expert from outside the heavens? Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian were overjoyed. After looking at each other, they felt that with such an expert descending in this direction, they would be able to buy a lot of time for the Northern Snow Empire. Just killing the souls of the 3 ancient beasts in the sovereign secret realm would be able to delay the Sea of Death Qi from spreading to the Red Emperor's city for at least a day. This was because the Sea of Death Qi was pushed forward by the souls of the ancient beasts in the sovereign secret realm. Without the souls of the ancient beasts, the Sea of Death Qi wouldn't be able to spread so quickly. However, Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian were obviously thinking too much. The purple light that descended from the sky instantly killed the souls of the 3 ancient beasts, but didn't continue to kill more. Instead, it appeared not far away from the Red Emperor's city. A middle-aged man covered in purple light appeared in front of Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian without any warning. This man's skin had turned pure purple, and his eyes shone with a demonic purple light. His entire body carried an incomparably powerful aura. Under this kind of aura, Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian couldn't even speak a word. It wasn't that they didn't dare to speak, but the other party's aura suppressed them, rendering them unable to move. "Ha! 2 fishes that escaped the net. Such a young 3-star emperor. The Symbol clan will take them in. Come with me." The middle-aged man covered in purple light laughed lightly, and he raised his hand arrogantly, directly taking Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian into his small world. This person was definitely an existence that had stepped into the sovereign secret realm. Of course, he could take Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian away. The difference in strength between the 2 parties was too big, and Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian couldn't resist at all. If the personal disciples of the 5 emperors reached the level of the 3-star emperor before a certain age, they would be taken away by the forces from beyond the heavens. Obviously, this middle-aged man covered in purple light was from the Lushan clan's Symbol clan. After seeing Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian, he didn't say a word and directly took them away in a domineering manner. He wanted to take them away and train them into the Symbol clan's warriors. This action caused Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian to be dumbfounded. After being taken into a chaotic small world, the 2 of them couldn't believe that the other party had directly taken them away. Wouldn't this mean that they would be taken away from Shenwu world? Perhaps they would be able to see the Red Emperor again, but they still had a lot of unfinished business in Shenwu world. Ignoring everything else, the disaster of the 9 Dark Moon was far from over. If they left just like that, even though they would be safe, they might not be able to see their other friends again. However, the other party didn't give them any chance to speak and directly took them away. Chapter 1002. Shenwu World. Of course, Long Yu doesn't know what's happening in the Northern Snow Empire, but he does know that the Northern Snow Empire isn't in a good situation right now. And so, he used the balance control secret art to search for the crescent-shaped doors in the various worlds as fast as he could. Finally, after 3 days, he went through all 12 of them. After passing through 12 crescent-shaped arched doors, Long Yu finally arrived at the core region of the 9 serene moon. Furthermore, he also learned that there was a grade 2 divine array, the 12-star prison, set up in the palace on the 2nd floor of the 9 serene moon. This god formation could be said to be the most powerful god formation that Long Yu has ever seen. Within this 12-star prison, any cultivator's martial skills, thaumaturgy, or the power of divine runes couldn't be used at all. They had to search through all 12-star prison in order to find the crescent-shaped doors and escape. Furthermore, Long Yu found out that the positions of the crescent-shaped doors in the 12-star prison would change after a very short period of time. In other words, if he didn't have the balance control secret art, he wouldn't have been able to escape after being trapped inside for who knows how long. This was a terrifying god formation used to trap others. The rank of a rank 2 god formation was enough to show how powerful it was. But Long Yu knew that this 12-star prison that he went through was only a modified version of the Geo Dragon Emperor's own convenience. In other words, the Geo Dragon Emperor could easily pass through this rank 2 god formation after borrowing his body, but it wouldn't be so easy for anyone else. If this was the complete 12-star prison, Long Yu would have been trapped inside for countless years. At that time, the entire Shenwu world would have been drowned in a sea of death aura. Regardless, I'm finally out, and I even obtained the cultivation method for the 12-star prison. Long Yu was thinking that as long as he went back and cultivated in seclusion for a period of time, he would be able to learn the grade 3 god array, Scarlet Blood, as well as the grade 2 god array, 12-star prison. It would be of great benefit to his battle prowess. But now, he was not in the mood to study the cultivation methods of these 2 divine formations because the most important thing was to suppress the power of the 9 Dark Moon and strive to end the Dark Moon cataclysm in advance. On the 3rd floor of the Palace of the Dark Moon, which was also the last floor, the scene was very simple. This was a very ordinary blood-red palace. In the center of the palace, there was a blood-red radiance that continuously emitted bloody energy to the surroundings. It was this power that caused Shenwu World's countless ancient souls to awaken, as well as causing the entire Sea of Death to go berserk. Near the blood-red radiance, there was a stone table with a small bottle of pills on top of it. Obviously, this was another cultivation resource that Geo Dragon Emperor prepared for himself, but now it was Long Yu's turn to take advantage of it. Outside of the 9 Dark Moon, the bloody energy greatly affected cultivators. But now that Long Yu had arrived at the source of the bloody energy, he didn't feel too much pressure. However, there was nothing he could do to suppress the blood-red radiance for now. Infinite imprisonment. Long Yu first unleashed the infinite imprisonment technique, summoning one dark star after another to completely imprison the blood-red radiance. However, this technique was still too weak. In just a split second, the blood-red radiance exploded and shattered the infinite imprisonment technique. Infinite imprisonment, ineffective. 8 trigrams, heaven suppression. 9 nether, true spirit, origin deterrence. Long Yu tried many methods in succession, but he discovered that none of the methods he had used were able to affect the blood-red light. It wasn't that the effect was weak, but that it was completely ineffective. Luckily, after this period of studying, I've already grasped 18% of the mark of 9 nether. I'll try to use the mark of 9 nether. Maybe I can suppress it. Long Yu frowned. He really couldn't do anything about this blood-red radiance. He could only try to use the mark of 9 nether to sense its presence and see if there would be any reaction. He thought to himself, if it was Geo Dragon Emperor who borrowed his body to come here, he probably wouldn't need to suppress this blood-red radiance. After all, this is his own innate thaumaturgy. He might still be able to use it in the future. Right? Use it. I have the mark of 9 nether on me. In other words, in the perception of the 9 Dark Moon, I'm actually Geo Dragon Emperor. If that's the case, I should be able to completely control the 9 Dark Moon and even make it part of me. However, I can't affect it at all now. It must be because I don't have enough control over the mark of 9 nether. Long Yu thought of this very quickly. If he could completely control the Mark of Nine Nether, he would be equivalent to the reincarnation of Joyo Dragon Emperor, and everything in the world of Nine Nether would be under his control. But now, he couldn't affect the Nine Dark Moon, which showed that his level of control over the Mark of Nine Nether was still too low. However, how could it be easy to master a deeper level of the Mark of Nine Nether? Unless he encountered the pitch-black whirlpool in the void, he would be able to quickly improve Long Yu's level of control over the Mark of Nine Nether. Otherwise, he would have to rely on time. Under normal circumstances, he would only be able to master 1 or 2% of the Mark of Nine Nether in half a year. Moreover, Long Yu had no idea how much he had to master the Mark of Nine Nether to be able to barely control the Nine Dark Moon. Difficult, too difficult. Long Yu pondered for a moment, but he didn't immediately start comprehending the Mark of Nine Nether. Instead, he picked up the pill bottle on the central stone table and checked it. There were indeed 5 endless grade pills inside. I might be able to quickly step into the late-stage Martial Emperor realm after consuming these pills, but they won't be of much use in suppressing the Nine Dark Moon. Previously, I comprehended the power of creation in the depths of the Nine Nether Palace, and was possessed by the remnant consciousness of Joyo Dragon Emperor. In the Divine Martial Realm Core, I obtained 3 pitch-black stones and 5 endless grade pills. If the Joyo Dragon Emperor hid something of equal value in each of the 7 great forbidden areas, then isn't it a little too shabby to only have 5 pills in the Nine Dark Moon? Thinking of this, Long Yu started to look around. If he could find other things left behind by the Dragon Emperor of the Nine Abyss, the whole situation might turn around. Of course, when he looked around, he didn't find anything suspicious. The entire 3rd level of the Nine Darkness Moon seemed to have only one small hall, which nurtured the core of the Nine Darkness Moon, which was the blood-red ball of light, as well as the 5 endless level medicinal pills. Apart from that, the simple hall was very small. There was only a blood-red painting carved on the walls. There were no living creatures in the painting, only swords, spears, and other weapons. All of them were blood-red in color, looking extremely bloody and terrifying. The only thing that might be suspicious is this painting, but this is just a simple mural. What secret could be hidden in it? Could it be that I can find other hidden compartments through this mural? Long Yu began to lean against the wall of the hall and carefully search. Just as Long Yu entered the last layer of the Nine Dark Moon, Azura City in the Northern Snow Empire had already received bad news. The Sea of Death aura was spreading towards Azura City under the leadership of several ancient giant beasts. Moreover, before this, Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian, who had been guarding the Red Emperor City until the last moment, had suddenly lost contact. At the same time, the Red Emperor City was submerged by the Sea of Death aura a day later. This situation made the faces of many people in Azura City sink. Could it be that Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian had risked their lives to fight against the ancient giant beasts that covered the sky, sacrificing themselves to buy time for everyone? But this guess wasn't realistic. First of all, Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian were very clear that the Sea of Death aura was unstoppable. Even if they retreated to Azura City, they couldn't charge into the Sea of Death aura and throw away their lives. Secondly, although Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian had broken through to the 3-star Emperor realm, it was impossible for them to kill the sovereign secret realm giant beasts in the Sea of Death aura. In that case, where did Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian go? And who delayed the Sea of Death aura for a day? These 2 questions had recently become the biggest problem that troubled Yu Hanxin, Shu Chan, and the others. But soon the biggest problem came. The Sea of Death aura had already submerged the Red Emperor City. Next was Azura City, which was relatively close to the Red Emperor City. At this moment, most of the martial cultivators and families in Azura City had already moved to the depths of the Northern Snow Empire. Many people had directly teleported to the Holy City of the 5 Emperors. After all, the Holy City of the 5 Emperors was the most secure place. As long as there were enough spatial attribute exotic beast crystals, they could teleport people to the holy city of the five emperors. Only the holy city of the five emperors was the safest place. There were not many people left in the entire Azure city. Now, only a series of people with status and strength in the Northern Snow Empire, such as Yuan Xin, Shu Chan, and Shi Yingwu, had gathered in Azure city. Even the city lord of Heavenly Mandate City, Gu Yixian, had come. Because the Sea of Death aura was constantly approaching, if Azure city could not be defended, the entire Northern Snow Empire might not be spared in the end. Then, all their efforts during this time would be in vain. It just so happened that Shu Chan said that she might have a way to temporarily stop the spread of the Sea of Death aura. She invited Shi Yingwu to come and help. The others also followed, wanting to observe the main battlefield. Not long ago, Dugu Yijian finally returned. He did not return alone, but he brought back an ancient hall of the netherworld. Shu Chan's words made Shi Yongwu's heart move. Chapter 1003. Juyo Dragon Emperor's subordinates were the 9 nether envoys. When the 4 of them worked together, they could display very powerful strength. The 4 ancient palaces they possessed were actually a series of top-grade ancient weapons. If the 4 ancient palaces worked together, they could lay down a very powerful defensive formation. Even Juyo Dragon Emperor at his peak couldn't break through it. It was clear how terrifying it was. This was something Shi Yingwu had heard from the Death Envoy, and she had told Shu Chan about. Now that Shi Yingwu had inherited Death Ancient Palace, Shu Chan had inherited Azura Ancient Palace, and Dugu Yijian had inherited Yellow Spring Ancient Palace. The 3 ancient palaces could form an incomplete defensive formation. Although the defensive ability wouldn't be as strong as the 4 ancient palaces combined, it should be somewhat effective in blocking the spread of the Sea of Death aura. In the sky above Azura City, the 3 ancient palaces revealed themselves. Because they had to combine their strength to form a defensive formation, there was no need to waste any energy to conceal themselves. In any case, no one could see them. Near the Sea of Death aura, all the martial cultivators, sects, and clans had fled. How could they dare to stay here for even half a step? Dugu Yijian, get ready. Let's kill our way out. Shu Chan's delicate body rose up and said to Dugu Yijian in the sky. Dugu Yijian nodded, but didn't say anything. He had always listened to Shu Chan. Shi Yingwu also flew up and brought the 2 of them and the 3 ancient palaces out of Azura City. Outside Azura City, there are too many awakened souls of Emperor Realm and Emperor Realm. Let's kill them all first. Azura Ancient Palace. Azura Thought-Killing Formation. Shu Chan raised her hand and unleashed a technique. From the Azura Ancient Palace, a wave of Azura killing intent surged out and enveloped the awakened souls outside the city. Even the awakened souls of the Emperor Realm were in great pain under this technique. However, to eliminate the awakened souls of Emperor Realm awakened souls, Shu Chan alone wasn't enough. Underworld Soul Assimilation Array. Yellow Springs divine characters blossomed from the Yellow Springs Ancient Palace, and a sinister and terrifying aura suppressed the land outside Azura City, wiping out the countless souls of the dead. River of Death. Inside the Death Ancient Palace, the power of endless death divine characters surged out and formed a long river. Since Shi Yingwu was the direct disciple of the Death Envoy, the power of this death river was many times stronger than the Shura Will-Killing Formation and the Underworld Soul-Devouring Formation. The river of death flowed out, and the power of the divine runes of death engulfed the countless awakened souls, causing them to dissipate completely. The souls of the giant beasts that had died once were even more fearful of the power of death. Even though the 3 of them hadn't been able to eliminate all of the souls, they had managed to scare away the remaining souls, causing them to retreat into the distance. The power of the divine runes of death was too much of a deterrent to these awakened souls. The moment Shi Yingwu made her move, the river of death flowed out, clearing out a large area outside Azura City. Following that, the three of them flew out of the city with the three ancient palaces. At this time, the Sea of Death Chi was only 100 li away from Azura City. At this distance, there was a sovereign secret realm level flying beast soul that blotted out the sun. It was like a mountain, and it was pressing down on Azura City, bringing with it a dense sea of death chi. Inside Azura City, everyone who was still standing became incomparably nervous. Could the three ancient palaces really stop the sea of death chi from spreading? Could they resist the pressure of the sovereign secret realm level flying beast soul? If they couldn't, Azura City wouldn't be able to defend. One had to know that this city was built with the blood, sweat, and tears of countless people, and they had been defending it until now. If Azura City was destroyed now, many people wouldn't be able to accept it. It's starting. Outside the city, Shi Yingwu, Shu Chan, and Duguijin looked at each other and nodded. Then, they activated the three ancient palaces at the same time. The three ancient palaces rose into the sky, but in front of the flying beast soul that was 100 li away, they were like three small toys. 9 nether soaring dragon formation. In the next instant, Shi Yingwu and the other two used the power of their respective divine runes, activating the core of the three ancient palaces. The three ancient palaces blossomed with resplendent radiance. The three ancient palaces interacted with each other. Countless shadows of pitch-black dragons appeared above the ancient palaces and flew out in all directions. As the shadows of the pitch-black dragons spread out, the entire sky was shrouded by the pitch-black hue of the 9 underworlds. These soaring dragon phantoms formed a barrier that continued to expand. They even reached the extent of covering the sky, protecting the entire Azura City. With the three ancient palaces as the core, more and more soaring dragon phantoms rose from the ancient palaces and merged into the defensive barrier, strengthening the defensive power of the barrier. In the past half a year, Shi Yingwu and Shu Chan hadn't activated the ancient palaces, and Duguijin had just obtained the Yellow Springs ancient palace. Therefore, the power of the three ancient palaces could be said to be almost full. Countless dragon phantoms flew high into the sky and fused with the defensive barrier, blocking in front of Azura City. Next, the moment that made everyone in Azura City nervous arrived. Outside the pitch-black 9 nether soaring dragon formation, a boundless sea of death chi rolled over. Among them, the ruler's secret realm level flying beast soul quickly slammed into the 9 nether soaring dragon formation's barrier. Rumble. The earth trembled and the mountains shook. Many cracks appeared on the ground, causing the hearts of everyone in Azura City to tighten. However, with the reinforcement of the 9 underworld soaring dragons barrier, the flying soul and the endless sea of deathly aura were finally blocked outside the barrier. The entire 9 nether soaring dragon formation expanded to a radius of several 100,000 li, blocking the sea of death chi in that direction. At least it can last for 3 days. If the situation doesn't improve after 3 days, we will have to retreat. Shi Yingwu felt the strength of the 9 nether soaring dragon formation and said, "It's a pity that it's an incomplete defensive formation. If we had the last hell ancient palace, I'm afraid we would be able to form an impenetrable defensive formation." Shu Chan said with a sigh, "I don't know where the hell ancient palace is now. Maybe when Long Yu returns, he will be able to find it." Shi Yingwu nodded her head and said. She also felt a little pity. The defensive formation formed by the 3 ancient palaces was, after all, incomplete. It was already beyond their expectations that it could resist the Sea of Death Chi for 3 days. Now, Shi Yingwu was very clear that Long Yu should be in the 9 Dark Moon. However, she didn't know if Long Yu had encountered any danger. Could he stop the Sea of Death Chi from spreading? Only Shi Yingwu knew about this matter because she was the person Long Yu trusted the most. On the other hand, it was useless for others to know about this matter. What Shi Yingwu didn't know was that Long Yu was currently in a predicament in the last small palace on the 3rd layer of the 9 Dark Moon. There's a mass of blood-red light, which is the core of the dark moon of the Nine Serenities. There's a stone table with a medicinal pill bottle on top of it, which contains 5 endless-grade medicinal pills. The surrounding blood-red murals depict various blood-red weapons. Long Yu had searched the entire small palace and only found these 3 things. He had suspected that there might be a mechanism on the murals and that there might be a passage leading to another place. However, after a day of searching, he still couldn't find any mechanism on the murals. However, Long Yu was sure that there should be something strange on the murals, because when he searched the entire murals, he felt a familiar aura seeping out. That aura felt very similar to the aura of the vortex that he had absorbed before. It contained the origin aura of the Joyo Dragon Emperor. However, Long Yu didn't know how to absorb that aura from the murals. I'll spend another day studying this murals. If there's still no result, I can only take the endless level elixirs and try to improve my martial arts realm. Long Yu thought to himself as he continued to study the blood-red murals. He already knew that there were many blood-red weapons on the murals. There were swords, spears, halberds, hammers, chains, and so on. These weapons seemed to be alive and made people feel as if they were some kind of life form. Long Yu subconsciously focused on these weapons and even tried to integrate the aura of the 9 Nethermark into them. Unfortunately, no matter how he treated these weapons, the blood-red weapons didn't react at all. Since Long Yu could feel the origin aura of the Joyo Dragon Emperor, there must be some secrets in this murals. It was just that he hadn't discovered them yet. Long Yu raised his head and looked around. The entire small palace was cylindrical, and the walls of the palace were all engraved with such murals. Long Yu studied many of the blood-red weapons on the murals, trying to find something. However, he didn't find anything in the end. Finally, when he looked around, an idea came to his mind. Since there was something wrong with this murals, why didn't he observe the murals as a whole first? Why did he have to observe the blood-red weapons on the murals? This idea changed Long Yu's thinking. He stood in the middle of the entire small palace and began to observe the murals. He connected the walls of the palace together in his imagination. Originally, the murals were engraved on the ceiling, floor, and walls of the palace. However, in Long Yu's imagination, the murals were laid flat and formed a long scroll. As Long Yu imagined it, he realized that the blood-red weapons on the murals were arranged according to a certain rule. Chapter 1004. When Long Yu saw this, the blood-red murals in the hall suddenly changed. They fell off the walls, the floor, and the ceiling, forming a long scroll that rolled up and fell into Long Yu's hand. Long Yu looked around again and realized that there were no longer any blood-red patterns on the walls of the entire palace. All that was left was a blood-red color, with no images on them at all. Got it. Long Yu clenched the scroll in his hand. Although he didn't know what it was, he was sure that it was something the Joyo Dragon Emperor had left behind for him. Through the 9 Serenities mark, Long Yu could sense a familiar aura from the scroll, and a voice rang out in his mind. Dragon Blood Sacred Painting. An unbounded fighter. Long Yu was shocked. He didn't expect the scroll to be an unbounded fighter. The Death Emissary had once said that the Joyo Dragon Emperor only knew one unbounded martial skill, but he didn't say how many unbounded fighters he had. Now it seemed that the Joyo Dragon Emperor had quite a number of unbounded fighters. If the ancient Dragon Bone Tower was fully restored, it would be a top-grade unbounded fighter. And this blood-red scroll, called the Dragon Blood Sacred Painting, was also an unbounded fighter. Although it was only a high-grade unbounded fighter, there was no doubting its power. Although it couldn't compare to a God-grade absolute beginning fighter, a God-grade absolute beginning fighter was far more difficult to obtain than an unbounded fighter. After all, an unbounded fighter was the strongest existence. Moreover, it seemed that it was very difficult to awaken a God-grade absolute beginning fighter. If one could fuse with an unbounded fighter to a higher level, its power would definitely surpass that of a low-level absolute beginning fighter. In any case, obtaining an unbounded fighter like the Dragon Blood Sacred Painting was a pleasant surprise for Long Yu. In particular, he discovered that the battle weapon actually contained quite a bit of the Juyo Dragon Emperor's origin aura, which could solve the problem he was currently facing. The origin aura of the Juyo Dragon Emperor can allow me to absorb it quickly and control more of the 9 nether seals. I just don't know how much of the Juyo Dragon Emperor's origin aura is in the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram. As Long Yu thought to himself, he immediately sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to absorb the Juyo Dragon Emperor's origin aura from the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram. Due to the existence of the 9 nether mark, the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram had already treated Long Yu as the Juyo Dragon Emperor, allowing Long Yu to absorb the Juyo Dragon Emperor's aura. As the Juyo Dragon Emperor's aura was absorbed by Long Yu within the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram, his mastery of the 9 nether mark increased. Starting from 18%, it continued to rise. 19%, 20%, 25%. Finally, the Juyo Dragon Emperor's origin aura within the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram was completely absorbed by Long Yu, allowing his mastery of the 9 nether mark to reach 25%. Without a doubt, this was a huge improvement, saving Long Yu at least a few years of time. For his mastery of the 9 nether mark, this was definitely a huge leap forward. At this point, he had basically grasped a quarter of the 9 nether mark. Long Yu felt that he had a bit of control over the core of the 9 Dark Moon. Although it was still very difficult, if he put in a bit of effort, he would be able to barely control the 9 Dark Moon. What he needed to do now was to suppress the power of the 9 Dark Moon, or to make the 9 Dark Moon leave Shen Wu World's territory as quickly as possible. As long as the two sides were further apart, the 9 Dark Moon's aura wouldn't be able to affect Shen Wu World. Long Yu didn't waste any time and began to use the 9 nether mark to suppress the blood-red light at the center, which was the core of the 9 Dark Moon. As he did so, the blood-red light suddenly became a bit dimmer. Sure enough, he was able to suppress the power of the 9 Dark Moon after gaining 25% of the 9 Dark Moon's control. As soon as the blood-red light became a bit dimmer, the power radiating from the 9 Dark Moon became a bit weaker. This situation directly alleviated Shen Wu World's dangerous situation a bit. Around Shen Wu World, the spreading speed of the Sea of Death aura suddenly slowed down, while the awakening speed of the ancient souls in Shen Wu World also slowed down quite a bit. For example, in the holy city of the 5 emperors, there used to be over 100 ancient souls awakening every breath, but now the number of souls awakening every breath had dropped to around 80 to 90. The Dark Moon Calamity had only started half a month ago, so it should have become even stronger and more terrifying. But now, thanks to Long Yu's efforts, it had become weaker. This discovery caused everyone in the holy city of the 5 emperors and the entire Shen Wu world to be overjoyed. Although this degree of weakening wasn't enough to determine anything, it gave everyone a glimmer of hope. Under the relentless attacks of the Lushan clan's ruler's secret realm combatants, the Sea of Death aura was actually being pushed back. This was undoubtedly a very encouraging sight. Even the ruler's secret realm combatants noticed that quite a few of the ruler's secret realm's giant behemoth souls had become a lot weaker. This made them a bit suspicious, so they all turned their gazes towards the sky, towards the 9 Dark Moon that was still emitting a blood-red light. These ruler's secret realm combatants didn't dare to approach the 9 Dark Moon. The stench of blood around there was enough to cause their minds to go berserk and eventually go insane. This wasn't the first time such a thing happened to the Lushan clan. The 9 Dark Moon had clearly become weaker. But even if the ruler's secret realm combatants felt this, they still didn't dare to do anything to the 9 Dark Moon. Northern Snow Empire, outside Azura City. The 9 Underworld's soaring dragon defensive formation had become even more sturdy, and as the 9 Dark Moon weakened, the Sea of Death aura's attacks weren't as strong as before, allowing the defensive formation to last for another day. It seems like Brother Dragon has made some progress. Keep it up, Brother Dragon. Shi Yangwu prayed in her heart. At the same time, she kept urging the power of the divine characters of death to strengthen the 9 Underworld's soaring dragon defensive formation, so that it could last longer. Inside the 9 Dark Moon, Long Yu tried his best, and very soon, the blood-red light dimmed a bit, causing the power of the 9 Dark Moon to weaken once more. As such, he was a little worried. If the blood-red light was completely extinguished, wouldn't the power of the 9 Dark Moon disappear without a trace? No, the core of the 9 Dark Moon can't be weakened indefinitely. Long Yu knew that the Juyo Dragon Emperor's 7 divine abilities formed the 7 forbidden areas of the 9 Underworlds realm. At the same time, they were also the 7 pillars of the 9 Underworlds realm, maintaining the balance of the entire 9 Underworlds realm. If the power of the 9 Dark Moon was suddenly forcefully suppressed, would there be any unexpected changes? This was a question that Long Yu couldn't help but consider. If the balance of the 7 pillars, or in other words, the 7 forbidden areas were destroyed because of this, it would cause the order of the entire 9 Underworlds realm to become chaotic. That wouldn't be worth it, because the consequences would be even worse than the sea of death aura spreading. I forgot about that before, but it seems like there shouldn't be any problems now. I've only suppressed 2% of the power of the 9 Dark Moon's core, so it shouldn't affect it too much. But with such a small amount of suppression, if it were to be transmitted to Shenwu World from such a far distance, the effects would be even greater. Long Yu thought about it for a bit. If that's the case, then he'll suppress the power of the 9 Dark Moon by 5%. This amount of suppression should be enough to make Shenwu World situation a lot better. After all, the distance between the 9 Dark Moon and Shenwu World is quite far. Suppressing 5% of the power would mean that the power transmitted to Shenwu World would be reduced to at least 1/5 of its original power. That way, Shenwu World situation would be a lot better, and Long Yu would be able to try to move the 9 Dark Moon away from this place as soon as possible. Now that he has 25% of the 9 Underworlds mark under his control, he should be able to do that. While suppressing the power of the 9 Dark Moon, Long Yu also took the time to study the unending grade weapon, the Dragon Blood Sacred Painting. This was a weapon that combined both offense and defense. From the Dragon Blood Sacred Painting, it could manifest various blood-colored weapons, blades, spears, swords, halberds, shields, and so on. And because it was an unending grade weapon, it was possible to increase its power. Unending grade weapons, pills, and martial techniques were all unique in that they could explode with unlimited power. If one was lucky, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they could explode with 10 times their power. That way, even opponents stronger than the user would be able to kill them. This was the power of an unending grade weapon. It didn't just depend on luck, but also on the compatibility between the user and the weapon. Without a doubt, the higher the compatibility between the user and the unending grade weapon, the more power they could explode with when using the weapon. Long Yu had already consumed quite a few endless grade medicinal pills. At most, he had obtained 6 times the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Therefore, consuming 1 medicinal pill was equivalent to consuming 6. Both his martial arts realm and his world cleansing body realm had improved significantly. But Long Yu had yet to see the full power of an unending grade weapon. He currently had 2 unending grade weapons on him. One of them was the Dragon Blood Sacred Painting, and the other was the Duankong Sacred Spring. It used to belong to a sworn enemy of the Juyo Dragon Emperor, who had seized it and sealed it. Now that the Duankong Sacred Spring was in Long Yu's hands, it had become one of his strongest trump cards. At the most critical moment, he could kill his opponents without them even knowing how they died. Now that he had the Dragon Blood Sacred Painting, Long Yu's combat prowess was bound to increase. The process of suppressing the 9 Dark Moons wasn't fast, and he didn't need to spend too much energy. All he had to do was continue suppressing them with the 9 Serenity's mark, which gave him the time to study the Dragon Blood Sacred Painting. Unfortunately, he couldn't test the power of the Dragon Blood Sacred Painting right now. After studying it for a while, he began to think about the 2 divine formations he had encountered before. Grade 3 Divine Formation, Scarlet Blood, and Grade 2 Divine Formation, 12-Star Prison. Chapter 1005. With Long Yu's continuous efforts, after 3 days, the core of the Nine Dark Moon, was finally suppressed by 5% by Long Yu. This also caused the Shenwu world's Dark Moon calamity to be weakened by 5 times. Originally, within the holy city of the 5 emperors, the ancient beast souls were reviving at a rate of 100 per breath. But now, the holy city of the 5 emperors could only revive at a rate of 20 per breath, and these 20 souls were a bit weaker than before. The Sea of Death aura had completely stopped spreading towards Shenwu world. This was because there were no more ruler arcane realm souls reviving in the depths of the Sea of Death aura. Quite a few of the ancient beast souls that left the Sea of Death aura and stepped onto Shenwu world had also begun to retreat. Because of this, everyone was pleasantly surprised. The alliance of 5 emperors, including the 5 emperors, all breathed out in relief. The Dark Moon calamity's strength could be said to have been weakened to its lowest point in history. It basically wouldn't pose much of a threat to Shenwu world. In the Northern Snow Empire, inside Azura City, everyone was cheering. Finally, the 9 underworlds' soaring dragon formation managed to stop the Sea of Death aura from spreading, as well as the giant Flying Souls invasion. And at this moment, it was finally starting to return to where it came from. Shenwu world's greatest crisis was resolved just like that. But in the entire Shenwu world, besides Shi Yingwu, no one else knew what exactly happened. Yu Hanxin also knew a bit about it, but she didn't know the specifics. She only knew that it might have something to do with Long Yu. On the other hand, the 20 ruler arcane realm cultivators that came from beyond the heavens to help felt a bit strange. They observed the 9 Dark Moon a few times, but couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. Although the 9 Dark Moon's power was weakened, it wasn't much, so they still didn't dare to go inside. In the 9 Dark Moon, Long Yu did not continue after weakening the core's power by 5%. Instead, he tried to move the 9 Dark Moon's position. The 9 Dark Moons were already moving at a rapid pace, and in half a month's time, they would no longer have any influence on Shenwu world. But Long Yu wanted to speed this up a bit to avoid any unexpected changes. He activated the 9 Nether Mark and used the power of the 9 Nether Mark on the core of the entire 9 Dark Moon. Then, he kept sending out thoughts to make the 9 Dark Moons spin faster. Feeling the will of the 9 Serenity's mark, the 9 Serenity's Dark Moon's movement speed really became faster, flying in the opposite direction of Shenwu world. Although it's only a bit faster, at this rate, the 9 Dark Moons will be able to escape Shenwu world's influence in 7 days. During this process, Long Yu continued to comprehend the 2 divine formations. The first one he comprehended was a rank 2 divine formation, the 12-star prison. This was a type of imprisonment technique, especially useful when dealing with a large number of opponents. Long Yu's comprehension of the 12-star prison was quite fast. In the last 3 days, he had already comprehended a bit more than half of it, so he estimated that he would be able to fully comprehend it in about half a month's time. This is about the right amount of time. After the 9 Dark Moons crisis is resolved, it's about time for me to perform a divination on that Wu Long and see if he's the mastermind behind Ji Bai. Thinking that, Long Yu's eyes flashed with killing intent. No matter who it was, as long as they dared to make a move on Long Yu's friends, Long Yu would never forgive them. As long as he's strong enough, he will make them pay with their blood. Even during the previous assassination attempt, no one in Heavenly Mandate City suffered any casualties, but that was only because Long Yu was there. If Long Yu wasn't there, the consequences would be unimaginable. In 7 days, Long Yu sped up the 9 Dark Moon. Once the 9 Dark Moon was completely out of Shenwu world's influence, Long Yu once again urged the 9 Dark Moon to slow down. Although he now had a certain level of control over the 7 Forbidden Zones, his understanding of the 9 Serenity's mark was still very low. He didn't want to mess around and cause chaos in the entire 9 Serenity's realm. Because of that, since he sped up the 9 Dark Moon to leave, he naturally had to slow it down to its original speed to avoid any accidents. After another 7 days, Long Yu finally managed to slow down the 9 Dark Moon to its original speed. Everything returned to normal. At this point, the 9 Dark Moon could no longer be seen from Shenwu world. Because it was too far away, and the 9 Dark Moon itself wasn't that big. It couldn't compare to the Death Star spiral at all. And at this point, Long Yu had finally finished comprehending the second Grey Divine Formation, the 12-star prison. The most compatible divine rune for this move was the Elemental Divine Rune. Fortunately, Long Yu was currently compatible with all 8 Elemental Divine Runes, and they had all reached the 5th level. That was why he could just barely display the 12-star prison. The higher the compatibility with the Elemental Divine Script, the more powerful the 12-star prison will be. But even so, since it's a second Grey Divine Formation, it'll be extremely hard for anyone in Shenwu World to break through. Long Yu finished his work with satisfaction. The 9 Dark Moon had returned to normal, and the Dark Moon calamity was probably over, so the entire Shenwu World was probably in the process of rebuilding. There must still be a lot of souls of the revived behemoths in the entire Shenwu World that need to be dealt with by the Alliance of 5 Emperors. The personal disciples of the 5 Emperors should also be out. If I want to attack Wulong, this is the best chance. Thinking that, Long Yu didn't immediately leave the 9 Dark Moon. Instead, he took out 2 endless pills from the palace on that floor and swallowed one of them first. It was an endless grade medicinal pill that had twice the medicinal strength of a normal pill. Combined with the boost from the Dubhe Star, it was a total of 4 times the strength. Long Yu's inner world began to expand. 210 million kilometers, 220 million kilometers, all the way to 270 million kilometers. The medicinal effects of the unending grade medicinal pill finally stopped. The things that the 9 Abyss Dragon Emperor left for me are really precious. Of course, Juyo Dragon Emperor himself didn't know that these things would end up benefiting me in the end. Long Yu quickly swallowed the second endless pill. This time, it gave him 3 times the original pill's medicinal power, causing Long Yu's inner world to once again experience a terrifying increase. 300 million miles. For any martial cultivator, expanding their inner world to 300 million miles was a threshold, because this represented that the martial cultivator had stepped into the late Emperor realm. The inner world's tempering of the martial cultivator's body, as well as the strengthening of the foundation of the martial cultivator, had reached another level. If everything else remained the same, a late Emperor realm martial cultivator's foundation and physique would be 3 times that of a mid-Emperor realm martial cultivator. Right now, Long Yu's foundation and physique had been strengthened by 3 times. His physical strength had increased by 3 times. Compared to ordinary martial cultivators that had their physical strength increased by 3 times, the meaning behind it was completely different. His physical strength had already far surpassed other martial cultivators. Now that it had increased by 3 times, the strength of his physical strength had left other martial cultivators in the dust. Not to mention the Shenwu world that didn't have any high-level body-tempering martial skills. Even in the Beyond Heaven world, there were only a handful of martial cultivators that could reach this level of physique at Long Yu's level. As my martial realm has increased, my deduction abilities have also increased. Furthermore, I've gained a better understanding of the 9 Underworld's mark, so deducing Wulong shouldn't be a problem now. Satisfied, Long Yu left the 9 Dark Moon and began to teleport back to Shenwu World. Before leaving, he took one last look at the 9 Serenity's Dark Moon to make sure there was nothing out of the ordinary about it. Then he took the Unbounded Warrior, the Dragon Blood Sage painting, and left. After teleporting a dozen times, Long Yu could no longer see the 9 Dark Moon. Instead, Shenwu World appeared in front of him, and with each teleportation, Shenwu World became bigger and bigger in his eyes. After teleporting 17 times, Long Yu finally charged headfirst into the surging and churning sea of death aura. At this very moment, because it had just gone through the Dark Moon calamity, the entire sea of death aura was still in a very active state. Inside the sea of death aura, there were still quite a few behemoth souls wandering around. These behemoth souls didn't have any consciousness. They could only instinctively devour heaven and earth spirit energy. But in the sea of death aura, where would there be any heaven and earth spirit energy for them to devour or sense? Because of that, these behemoth souls would most likely be wandering in the sea of death aura for all eternity, until they somehow manage to leave the sea of death aura and reach Shenwu world, only to be found and killed by other cultivators. If the Geo-Dragon Emperor had something prepared in the 7 forbidden zones, then what did he put in the sea of death aura? And if there really is something, where is it? Long Yu couldn't help but think. The entire sea of death aura was formed from the dense, white aura of death aura that surrounded the entire Shenwu world. If there was something hidden inside, how would Long Yu be able to find it? Unless he could fully grasp the 9 Serenities mark. Long Yu shook his head and didn't think too much about it for now. He teleported again and returned to the heavily damaged Shenwu world. After going through an intense dark moon calamity, as well as the invasion of the Sea of Death Aura, Shenwu world had suffered heavy losses. Countless cultivators, civilians, and beast cultivators lost their lives. And now, it was time for the Alliance of 5 Emperors to organize everyone to rebuild the world. Wulong, extrapolate. As soon as Long Yu returned to Shenwu world, he turned into a white-haired old man and activated his extrapolation ability. Extrapolation target, Wulong. Chapter 1006. The power of deduction continued to descend upon the body of Wulong, who is currently searching for the resurrected giant beasts in Shenwu world to slay. The current Long Yu didn't just increase his martial realm. His deduction ability had tripled. He also gained control over more than the 9 Serenities marks. From the endless void of the 9 Serenities realm, endless power was infused into Long Yu's deduction ability, causing Long Yu's deduction ability to increase by more than 10 times. It was precisely because of this confidence that Long Yu had the confidence to deduce Wulong. After all, Wulong was a powerful existence at the level of a 2-star imperial monarch. Even so, Long Yu found that the information he deduced about Wulong was still very vague. So after thinking for a bit, he took out a pill and swallowed it. This pill was an arcane high-grade pill. Its effect was to increase the strength of one's deduction ability by 3 times. As the pill's effect spread, Long Yu was able to deduce some detailed information about Wulong. For example, Wulong was once together with Ji Bai and plotted something together with Ji Bai. Then, Ji Bai made contact with an assassination organization, and the members of that assassination organization were the black-clothed assassins. Just like that, Long Yu could confirm that this Wulong was the mastermind behind Ji Bai's assassination. Ji Bai is dead. It's your turn now, Wulong. Without any hesitation, Long Yu created a spatial teleportation channel and stepped into it. He had already transformed into a white-haired old man and instantly disappeared from where he stood. He then appeared where Wulong was at this moment. Originally, Wulong was leading a group of 9 emperors from the Alliance of 5 Emperors to kill the remaining great ancient beasts near the southern border of Shenwu world to resurrect their souls. When Long Yu began to deduce Wulong, Wulong had already noticed and tried to resist the deduction ability. However, his deduction ability couldn't compare to Long Yu's, so some of his information was directly leaked to Long Yu. Long Yu spent almost half an hour trying to deduce Wulong. After all, Wulong wasn't Ji Bai. He was a 2-star emperor, so even if Long Yu became stronger, it wouldn't be easy to deduce him. During this period of time, Wulong basically didn't make any moves and only tried to resist Long Yu's deduction, while the 9 emperors he led were protecting him, because if a combatant was trying to deduce him, it meant that he was being watched. Wulong naturally understood the importance of this, so he had to stop the other party's deduction no matter what. And when Wulong found out that he couldn't stop the other party's deduction, he could only send this information to his Shifu, Lei Emperor, in the faraway holy city of the 5 Emperors, hoping that Lei Emperor would immediately come and save him. Although Wulong didn't know who was trying to deduce him, the fact that they were able to deduce his information meant that they weren't any weaker than him, so he had to ask Lei Emperor for help. But the problem was that Wu Long's current location was quite remote. The closest alliance of 5 Emperors war formation was at least 6 hours away. Lei Emperor would need at least another 6 hours to rush over. Even if they used some space teleportation weapons, they would need at least an hour, and this was already the fastest speed. Fortunately, it's impossible for that person to deduce me to come to my side in such a short period of time. When I meet up with Shifu, there shouldn't be any danger, Wu Long thought to himself. It wasn't strange that Wu Long was so cautious. With his martial arts realm, not to mention the fact that very few people dared to deduce him. Even if they did, most of them ended up in vain. It was impossible for them to deduce any information about Wu Long. After all, Wu Long was a powerful 2-star emperor. But now, someone was directly deducing him, and even deducing a part of his information. This made Wu Long recall that not long ago, Jibai was instantly killed by an unknown killer in the holy city of the 5 emperors. At that time, Jibai seemed to have felt the power of deduction, and then a mysterious middle-aged man appeared and suddenly killed him. Could it be that the person who is deducing me now is the person who killed Jibai? Wu Long thought to himself, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. I'll be waiting for you to come. With the combined strength of Shifu and Lord Lei Emperor, you will definitely not be able to return. Wu Long thought that he was prepared, but he didn't know that if Long Yu wanted to rush to his side, it would only take an instant. Just a breath's time after Wu Long notified Lei Emperor, the figure of a white-haired old man quietly appeared not far away from Wu Long and the others. This scene gave Wu Long and the others a shock. Who are you? Originally, Wu Long and the others had already set up camp at their original spot, waiting for Lei Emperor's arrival. They didn't expect such a strange old man to suddenly appear beside them, without any warning, without a sound, and his target seemed to be Wu Long and the others. The person who will kill you. An old voice rang out. The old man's eyes filled with murderous intent. This old man was naturally Long Yu. Unfortunately, he had used the Book of Shadows to disguise himself, and Wu Long and the others had no way of discovering his true identity. You're in the way. Long Yu looked at the 9 other Emperor realm powerhouses of the alliance of 5 emperors beside Wu Long and frowned slightly. He raised his hand, and the 12-star prison that he had just successfully cultivated was activated. 12 crescent-shaped arched doors instantly descended. The terrifying power of the second-grade divine formation instantly sucked the 9 Emperor realm powerhouses into it, completely trapping them within the 12-star prison. The 12-star prison was a sealing divine formation. The cultivators sealed within would not be in any danger, but they would be trapped for a period of time, unable to do anything. With that, only Wu Long was left. The others were trapped within the 12-star prison. Fight to your heart's content. The corners of Long Yu's lips curled up slightly. The dragon blood sacred diagram in his hand surged out like a raging river, surrounding Wu Long in the middle. And here I was wondering who it was, but it's just a late-stage Emperor old man. When Wu Long had a clear look at Long Yu's cultivation realm, the nervousness in his heart was slightly relieved. Although the old man looked terrifying and the scroll painting in his hand seemed to be very powerful, as long as the old man's cultivation realm was only at the late Emperor realm, Wu Long would be able to hold him off for a while. As long as the Lei Emperor arrived and joined forces with him, this old man would be no match for them. Lightning Monarch, all things scatter. Wu Long clenched his fist, and a burst of purple lightning exploded from his hand. In an instant, millions upon millions of purple lightning bolts shot out, each one strong enough to kill a late-stage Emperor expert. He could tell that the blood-red painting scroll that flew out from Long Yu's hand was an extremely powerful battle weapon. Therefore, he wanted to force it back or even defeat it first. Lightning Monarch, all things scatter, was a terrifying technique that Wu Long had combined 2 Emperor-based mystiques he had comprehended to create. The might of an attack executed by a 2nd-star Imperial Monarch realm expert, Wu Long, by combining 2 Imperial Dao Divine abilities, would surely be capable of obliterating the heavens and the earth. If it were to blast onto a lofty and enormous mountain, then it would be capable of completely shattering a mountain that was over 10 kilometers tall. In Wulong's opinion, such a technique was enough to defeat the painting in Long Yu's hand. However, he didn't know that the dragon blood sacred diagram was an unbounded weapon. An unbounded weapon contained boundless power. Once it was unleashed, not to mention a 2-star emperor like Wulong, even a 7-star emperor might not be able to withstand it. Of course, it was impossible for the current Long Yu to unleash such power from an unbounded weapon. However, it was impossible for Wulong to defeat the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram with a single move. Dragon Blood, Divine Shield Diagram. Long Yu floated in the air, his eyes flashing with blood-red light. At this moment, he seemed to have sensed a trace of the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagrams that had long passed away. A blood-red shield diagram appeared, forming a blood-red dome of heaven that enveloped Wulong. The Dragon Blood Divine Shield diagram covered the entire area, completely covering the millions of purple lightning bolts that Wulong had unleashed. Endless explosions rang out. The blood-red Dragon Blood Divine Shield diagram gradually crumbled under the bombardment of the endless purple lightning bolts. Sure enough, it had been destroyed by Wulong. However, Wulong's dual emperor-based mystiques had been directly broken by Long Yu. It had failed to threaten the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram at all. What kind of battle weapon is that? A look of shock crossed Wulong's face. He had never seen such a powerful defensive technique, not to mention that it was unleashed by a late-stage martial emperor. It wasn't as if Wulong had never seen an Archean battle weapon before. If it was a late-stage martial emperor cultivator wielding an Archean battle weapon, Wulong's dual emperor-based mystiques and the millions of purple lightning bolts might not be able to destroy the battle weapon, but he would definitely be able to completely suppress it. But now, it was this blood-red diagram that had completely suppressed Wulong's power. It was the complete opposite of the situation before. Lei Emperor's cloak. Wulong was only stunned for a moment before he immediately reacted. A purple cloak instantly appeared on his back, and a purple electric light appeared. It condensed into an infinitely small electric light and directly shot towards the Dragon Blood Saint diagram. This purple lightning bolt was incredibly thin and long, to the point that it was impossible to see or detect with the naked eye. Only by probing with the divine sense could one vaguely sense its existence, and its speed was second to none. This was the effect of the Lei Emperor's cloak. It could condense an extremely thin lightning bolt that was enough to penetrate most of the defensive barriers of Shenwu World, or even destroy most of the battle weapons that appeared in Shenwu World. Because this lightning bolt was extremely thin, its penetrative power was also extremely high. Compared to the defense of the Red Emperor's cloak, the Lei Emperor's cloak's offensive power was much stronger. Chapter 1007. Wulong had a lot of confidence in the Lei Emperor's cloak's sudden attack. In the past, the Lei Emperor's cloak had never failed an attack. Now, he felt that it should be able to end the battle with a single strike. At the very least, it should be able to leave a big hole in the blood-red painting battle weapon, right? Alas, the reality of the situation disappointed him. That extremely tiny bolt of lightning with infinite penetrative power bombarded the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram. Its power was actually absorbed by the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram, and the impact was dispersed across the entire painting. As a result, the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram was unscathed. One must know that the extremely tiny bolt of lightning on the Lei Emperor's cloak originally relied on concentrating all its power on a single point to obtain the strongest penetrative and destructive power. But now, the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram was actually able to disperse any incoming attack across the entire painting. In other words, the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram was least afraid of this kind of single-point penetrative attack. The overall strength of the Lei Emperor's cloak wasn't strong. At least, compared to the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram, the gap was too big. With its power dispersed, it couldn't cause any damage to the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram at all. Long Yu was pleasantly surprised by this discovery. This meant that the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram was definitely a battle weapon with very strong defensive capabilities. Moreover, it was an unbounded battle weapon. Combined with the Dragon Blood Heavenly Shield on the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram, its defensive capabilities could be said to be insane. Even the 7-star Emperor might not be able to destroy it. Unless the opponent was in existence in the Sovereign Secret Realm, there was no way they could break through the defense of the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram. Of course, if the opponent was in existence on the level of the 7-star Emperor, 1 or 2 attacks on the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram would be enough to exhaust Long Yu's entire strength. There would be no chance for him to escape. However, this also gave Long Yu some means of self-defense when facing experts on the level of the 7-star Emperor. It was similar to the Red Emperor's cloak he had obtained when he was in the Sovereign Realm. Of course, the Red Emperor's cloak was no longer of any use to him. He hadn't refined the Red Emperor's cloak yet, so the Red Emperor's cloak could only withstand a full blow from a Great Emperor. For the current Long Yu, it was no longer of much use. Dragon Blood Sky Spear Diagram. Long Yu did not think too much about it. He immediately activated another diagram in the Dragon Blood Saint diagram. A blood-colored spear flew out from the diagram and shot towards Wulong. Heavenly Lightning Ring break. Wulong did not give up. After all, he was a 2-star Emperor. His strength was not to be doubted. He took out an Archean mid-tier combat weapon and unleashed countless lightning bolts that spread out in all directions. The lightning bolts contained an endless penetrative electric energy. It was an Archean mid-tier combat weapon, the Heavenly Lightning Ring. It was able to unleash an electric current that could penetrate all defenses and strike the opponent's body. Wulong's attacks were getting stronger and stronger. After testing out Long Yu's strength, he began to unleash all of his trump cards. It's a heavenly opening technique that's compatible with the Archean combat weapon. The third stage of compatibility is enough to unleash more than half of the Archean combat weapon's power. Long Yu's expression changed slightly. It was too late for him to dodge. His opponent's Heavenly Lightning Ring's power was too fast. In an instant, it smashed onto his body and enveloped him in a ring of lightning. The endless lightning bolts struck Long Yu's body in a terrifying manner. Even a 1-star Emperor or 2-star Emperor would be crippled if they were hit by the Heavenly Lightning Ring, let alone an ordinary late Emperor Realm cultivator. The corner of Wulong's lips curled up into a smile when he saw his opponent's attack land on him. In the end, he's just an old late-stage Emperor. But in the next moment, Wulong's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared in Long Yu's direction. He saw with his own eyes that the Heavenly Lightning Ring had pierced through the blood-red scroll and struck the old man. But why was the old man not affected at all? Long Yu's entire body was enveloped by the power of the Thunderbolt Divine Runes, ravaging his entire body. If it was any other late-stage Emperor cultivator, even a beast cultivator with a stronger physique wouldn't have been able to withstand it. He would have been burnt to a crisp by now. But Long Yu had cultivated the realm of death body tempering technique. He had even mastered this top-tier Archean body tempering technique to perfection. Needless to say, he had endured countless life and death torments. The benefit of all this was that his physique was at least 20 to 30 times stronger than an average cultivator of the same realm. Then, in addition to the body-tempering elixir that he had consumed from the ancient dragon elephant's remains, it had increased his physical strength by several times. With these two factors added together, Long Yu's physical body had become unparalleled. The only thing Long Yu couldn't understand was how the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor, who was only an Emperor Realm cultivator back then, could possess such a terrifying physique that was much stronger than his own. What he didn't understand was where the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor had gone. But now wasn't the time to think about it. Although he would soon kill Wulong, he still didn't want to use the martial techniques he once knew. He didn't want other experts to deduce some clues. It wasn't easy to block the Heavenly Lightning Ring's attack with one's physique, but it wasn't enough to injure him. Long Yu couldn't be bothered with it. Dragon Blood, Divine Lock Diagram. On one hand, Long Yu wanted to quickly finish off Wulong. On the other hand, he wanted to try out the various techniques of the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram. This diagram could activate countless weapons and transform them into different blood-red weapons to attack the enemy, each with different effects. The Dragon Blood Heavenly Shield Diagram could spread out a defensive barrier. Its defensive ability was quite good. The Dragon Blood Heavenly Spear Diagram could condense a blood-red spear to attack the opponent. Unfortunately, the blood-red spear had been blocked by Wulong's Emperor's defense mystique. After all, Long Yu had just obtained the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram and wasn't particularly powerful when he activated it. It was normal for it to be blocked by an Emperor's mystique. Therefore, Long Yu once again activated the Dragon Blood Divine Lock Diagram. Countless blood-red chains suddenly stretched out and locked onto Wulong's body. Wulong's body flickered with lightning. Even his eyes were flashing with lightning. You forced me to use Supreme Eyes of God of Lightning. Wulong's eyes were filled with lightning. This wave of lightning caused the sealed space to tremble slightly. The power of lightning divine characters gushed out and instantly affected Long Yu's mind. Supreme Eyes of God of Lightning was the other Emperor's mystique that Wulong had as a 2-star Emperor. He had already used his first Emperor's mystique to defend against the Dragon Blood Heavenly Spear Diagram. Now, this Supreme Eyes of God of Lightning had instantly pulled Long Yu into a lightning illusion. Long Yu frowned slightly. He hadn't expected Wulong's technique to be so special. It could even pull his mind into a lightning illusion. It was also at this moment that Wulong's eyes widened. He realized that the person who had been pulled into his lightning illusion was actually Long Yu. It was Long Yu, the strongest Emperor Stage cultivator. It was Long Yu, who was originally the personal disciple of the Red Emperor. What white-haired old man? So this guy was actually Long Yu. What technique did you use? Your concealment ability is actually so strong that even I couldn't detect it. Wulong's expression changed greatly. He had never expected this old man's true identity to be Long Yu. If he hadn't used the Supreme Eyes of God of Lightning to pull out Long Yu's mind, he definitely wouldn't have discovered this. Have I been seen through? If that's the case, it's time to end this quickly. Killing intent flashed across Long Yu's eyes. He instantly put away his playful thoughts. He could slowly experiment with the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram in the future, but if he didn't kill Wulong now, the news that he was Long Yu would probably be exposed. Just when Wulong discovered Long Yu's true identity, Long Yu did not hesitate to release the true origin energy of his true spirit. The aura of the Nine Hells deterrence shook the entire area and stunned Wulong's mind. I was too careless. Currently, besides executing the quintessence energy of the Ninth Hell to completely suppress his consciousness, there's no other way for me to stop him from spreading the news. I must seize this opportunity to kill him. A solemn look flashed across Long Yu's eyes. 2 elegant light blue streams of water had already wrapped around his hands. In the next instant, they turned into 2 invisible light blue daggers that disappeared from his hands. Space splitting slash. Major completion. Perhaps it was because of the danger of his identity being exposed, but in that moment, Long Yu's mind merged with the Duankong's sacred spring like never before. He had finally formed a connection with the endless grade combat weapon, the Duankong's sacred spring. Resonance. At the same time, the primordial martial technique derived from the Duankong's sacred spring, space splitting slash, had finally entered the major completion stage. Resonance, major completion. Die. The killing intent in Long Yu's eyes was boundless. The invisible blades formed from the Duankong's sacred spring instantly sliced through Wulong's heart meridians and the inner world connected to them. If Long Yu hadn't suddenly resonated with the Duankong's sacred spring and brought the space-splitting slash to the major completion stage, perhaps he wouldn't have been able to kill Wulong with this move. But now, the 2 invisible blades had completely pierced through Wulong, and this powerful 2-star Imperial Monarch Realm cultivator was killed without any suspense. The Sky Lightning Hoop and the Lay Emperor's cape belong to the Lay Emperor, so I shouldn't touch them. However, the aura of the 9 Nether Dragon Essence and the Duankong's Sacred Spring must be concealed as much as possible. If I don't, my identity will be exposed. Long Yu thought to himself. He knew that if his identity was exposed, he would attract a lot of trouble. The 5 emperors weren't a problem. The problem was the Lu Shan clan's sovereign mystic realm experts. If they found out, Long Yu would have nowhere to run. After all, Long Yu didn't even know what the sovereign mystic realm had up their sleeves, let alone fight them head-on. He absolutely couldn't let the sovereign mystic realm experts know. If that was the case, how could he conceal the 9 Nether true spirit source and the aura of the Duankong's Sacred Spring? Chapter 1008. On the Dragon Blood Sacred illustration, there were countless images of weapons, some of which could not even be called weapons at all. For example, as Long Yu searched around, he actually found an image that looked like a gentle breeze on the Dragon Blood Sacred illustration. He then activated it, and a gentle breeze immediately blew out. Dragon Blood Sacred Wind illustration. Long Yu learned the name of this illustration and, at the same time, its effect. It was just right for his current situation. Using the Dragon Blood Sacred Wind illustration, he could erase all traces of power in a certain place. When all traces of power in this place were erased, even the power of deduction would not be able to deduce what had happened here, because all traces had been erased. This was just right for Long Yu to activate now. The Dragon Blood Sacred Wind illustration had been activated several times by Long Yu, and the consumption was quite large. However, this was something that had to be done. After doing all this, the aura of the origin of the 9 Nether and the Duankong's Sacred Spring was completely erased. As for the other members of the alliance of 5 emperors who were trapped in the 12 moon-shaped arches, Long Yu could not be bothered to deal with them. After all, they did not make any mistakes and did not provoke Long Yu. Most importantly, their existence did not pose any threat to Long Yu, so there was no need to kill innocent people. After dealing with all this, Long Yu directly teleported out of this place. Now, he had already mastered 25% of the 9 Nether imprint, and he had a vague plan in his mind. Anyway, it would not be that fast to master all the 9 Nether imprints. Now, he could try to collect all the relic of the Outer God Tribe. The so-called Outer God Tribe was the Earth God Tribe, the Ice God Tribe, the Fire God Tribe, the Winged God Tribe, and all the other races known as the God Tribe. These were powerful races that did not belong to the human tribe, so their relic must be extraordinary. Although Long Yu had obtained the Earth God race's relic, he didn't know what use it had. However, it wouldn't be bad for Long Yu to collect the other relic. After that, he wanted to head to the other 7 forbidden grounds to see if the Geo Dragon Emperor had hidden anything there. The things left behind by the Geo Dragon Emperor were very beneficial to Long Yu. If it wasn't for the things left behind by the Geo Dragon Emperor, Long Yu wouldn't have reached the late Emperor realm. About an hour after Long Yu left the place where he killed Wu Long's master, Lay Emperor, finally arrived. Here, he could not sense any trace or aura of a battle at all. Even Wu Long's figure had completely disappeared, causing Lay Emperor's face to darken. In the field, there were only 9 emperors from the alliance of 5 emperors left, unconscious on the grass. When he left, Long Yu put away the 12 moon-shaped arched doors, then let the 9 of them fall unconscious on the ground. He didn't leave a single trace of himself behind. Therefore, even if Lay Emperor came, he wouldn't know what had happened here. Very quickly, the 9 emperors from the alliance of 5 emperors woke up. Lay Emperor questioned them, but discovered that they only saw a white-haired old man appear. Then, they were trapped in a strange place, unable to escape. In the end, they fainted. When they woke up, they found that Wu Long was already gone. Where did Wu Long go? Lay Emperor looked up at the sky, thinking of what had happened in the holy city of the 5 emperors some time ago. His third direct disciple, Ji Bai, had also been killed inexplicably. They couldn't even catch the shadow of the killer, and they couldn't even divine any information. Could it be that these two brats provoked someone they shouldn't have? Lei Emperor frowned, then waved his hand and left with his people. He had investigated before. Jibai had once contacted a killer organization, and that killer organization launched an assassination on the Northern Snow Empire and key figures in the Heavenly Mandate City. However, it didn't succeed, and then Jibai was killed. So, the person who killed Jibai was related to those key figures in the Heavenly Mandate City? Lei Emperor thought about it, and could only think of one person, Long Yu. However, Long Yu hadn't appeared for a long time, and the person who killed Jibai was a middle-aged man. It was unlikely that it was Long Yu, and the method he used was also different from Long Yu's. Lei Emperor couldn't figure out no matter how he thought about it, so he could only bring his people back. Soon, a team regal from the Lushan clan came to the Shenwu world and appeared in the holy city of the Five Emperors. This team regal was here to guard the Shenwu world, because after the Dark Moon catastrophe, the Lushan clan found that the Five Emperors alone could no longer suppress some existences in the Shenwu world. In fact, the most important thing was that the Dark Moon catastrophe first suddenly intensified, then mysteriously disappeared, which attracted the attention of the Lushan clan's higher-ups. So the higher-ups of the Lushan clan sent a team regal to the Shenwu world to protect the alliance of Five Emperors and to search for any suspicious clues. The arrival of the Team Regal didn't affect the entire Shenwu world. Even the Five Emperors rarely saw them, and no one knew how many people there were in the Team Regal. Everything related to the Team Regal was very mysterious. The Five Emperors only knew that something big was about to happen, but they didn't know what it was that attracted this Team Regal. Of course, Long Yu didn't know about the arrival of the Team Regal. He controlled 25% of the Nine Nethermark, so he could sense the appearance of existences of the ruler's secret realm, but he couldn't sense those who hadn't reached the ruler's secret realm from the outside world. For the next month, Long Yu traveled around the entire Shenwu world, and with the help of the Nine Nethermark, he passed by many hidden ancient ruins. He recorded the locations of these ancient ruins in a Jade tag, then sent the Jade tag to the Northern Snow Empire every once in a while. Currently, the Northern Snow Empire was in the middle of rebuilding, but unfortunately, both Xing Fei and Dao Jingtian had disappeared. Long Yu also knew about this, but he didn't appear in front of everyone. I don't know who did Xing Fei and Dao Jingtian's disappearance, but with my current methods, I can't find anything. Unless they're still in the Nine Nether realm, then if I can control more Nine Nether marks, I might be able to sense where they are. Long Yu thought to himself, if they couldn't be found in the Nine Nether realm, then they've most likely left the Nine Nether realm and were taken to the outer world. The reason why he didn't think that the two of them would die was because he used his tyrannical power of deduction to deduce that the two of them were still alive. However, there was an extremely strong barrier obstructing Long Yu's deduction of the two of them. Through this strong barrier, Long Yu could feel that his deductions were getting weaker and weaker. Seems like they've left the Nine Nether realm, but Long Yu couldn't be sure of the specifics, so he could only continue with his plan for now. Once he sends these Jade tags that record the location of the hidden age of old ruins back to the Northern Snow Empire, it's easy to imagine how many cultivators will obtain information about these age of old ruins and go search for them. Most likely, not too long after, all the age of old ruins in Shenwu world will be discovered by Long Yu and sent back to the Northern Snow Empire. At that time, the overall strength of the Northern Snow Empire will definitely far surpass the 6 sects and 10 kingdoms around the Five Emperors' holy city. It might even be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the alliance of Five Emperors. If I completely obtain the Nine Nether realm and take it away from here, then the Five Emperors will become history. At that time, Shenwu world will have to establish a new management system, Long Yu thought to himself. Once he fully grasps the Nine Nether mark, he will be able to control everything within the Nine Nether realm. Even a ruler's secret realm cultivator who comes to the Nine Nether realm will be suppressed by him. This is the power of having a miniature world. Long Yu still had a question. If he fully grasps the Nine Nether mark and turns the Nine Nether realm into his own miniature world, what kind of existence will he have as well as his own inner world become. Will Long Yu be able to become a cultivator with 2 miniature worlds? That's unheard of before. As Long Yu began to travel around Shenwu world, the Northern Snow Empire's development was also growing at a terrifying rate. Even without Xing Fa and Dao Jingtian, the Northern Snow Empire was much stronger than before the Dark Moon Calamity. As for Long Yu, after wandering around Shenwu world for half a year, he finally found a clue about the Ice God clan's sacred relic. In this half a year, he was constantly paying attention to the 3 thaumaturgy fruits that were sealed in his body. He found that the 3 thaumaturgy fruits were constantly being weakened while they were sealed. In this half a year, the 3 innate thaumaturgy fruits that were originally Emperor Thaumaturgy were being weakened to Emperor Thaumaturgy, and they were still being weakened. To be honest, this wasn't a bad situation. After all, after a thaumaturgy is weakened, there's still ways to strengthen it, as long as it doesn't cause any permanent damage to the body. That black stone left behind by the Geo Dragon Emperor, what exactly is it? How could it have such a terrifying effect? If I can extract the evil energy within it, wouldn't I be able to easily cause someone's cultivation to drop? Long Yu was still holding the black stone in his hand. He had a few ideas about this, but right now he definitely couldn't do anything about it. Once I get the Ice God clan's sacred relic, I'll head to the 9 Nether Prison Tablet again and try to comprehend the cultivation method for the 4th stage of the Pure World Physique. I wonder how many stages of the Pure World Physique I need to break through the evil energy seal on the black stone. As Long Yu thought to himself, he arrived at a boundless and boundless ice field. Chapter 1009. When he first sensed the Earth God clan's sacred relic, Long Yu had only grasped 5% of the mark of 9 serenities. But now he had grasped 25% of the mark of 9 serenities, which was 5 times stronger than before. This allowed him to sense the Ice God clan's sacred relic much further than before. Now, he could faintly sense the aura of the Ice God clan's sacred relic. The Ice God clan's sacred relic was most likely located thousands of miles away. As long as Long Yu followed the aura, he would be able to find the Ice God clan's sacred relic. Many powerful beasts of the Earth God clan gathered near the sacred object of the Earth God clan, but there were no beasts of the Ice God clan near the sacred object of the Ice God clan. The closest group of beasts of the Ice God clan was even 10,000 miles away. This made Long Yu a bit confused. It seemed that these foreign god clans weren't that sensitive to their own sacred relic. No wonder the Shenwu world was filled with all kinds of foreign god clans. It seemed that they weren't sure where their sacred relic was hidden by Geo Dragon Emperor. Long Yu continued forward. Soon, he felt an endless icy wind blowing from the front. Then, a bottomless ice abyss appeared in front of him. It seems that the Ice God clan's sacred relic is in this ice abyss. There are no Ice God beasts around here, but if I open the special space where the Ice God clan's sacred relic is hidden, it might attract many Ice God beasts. I need to act quickly. Using the mark of 9 serenities, Long Yu had already clearly discovered that the Ice God clan's sacred relic was hidden in this ice abyss. He didn't know how deep it was buried. Long Yu didn't think too much about it, and flew straight down the ice abyss. The endless icy wind blew against his face. If a cultivator who hadn't reached the Emperor's level went down a short distance, they would probably be torn to pieces by the endless icy cracks. Luckily, Long Yu's physical body had already reached the Emperor's level. The icy cracks were still within his tolerance range. The deeper he went, the fiercer the chilly wind became. His skin began to crack, and scarlet blood seeped out. Death Chi entanglement. After Long Yu had fallen to a depth of 10,000 feet, he had no choice but to activate the death entanglement to reduce the power of the frigid ice gale by half. Only then was he able to withstand it. When he descended to a depth of 20,000 feet, even the deathly aura around his body could no longer completely block out the onslaught of the frigid winds. He had no choice but to unleash the death armor to block out the frigid winds. After 300 kilometers, Long Yu activated the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram's Dragon Blood Heavenly Shield. After 400 kilometers long, you could only hide in the Dragon Bone Ancient Tower and activate the 9 Nether Heavenly Screen to continue descending. At a depth of 50,000 feet long, you finally sensed that the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower had touched the bottom of the entire abyss. With a loud crash, the Dragon Bone Ancient Tower stood tall at the bottom of the abyss. This place was almost the same as the underground space where the Earth God clan's holy relic had been. The endless icy wind was not only extremely destructive, but it could also block all deductions and the power of the space divine text. Only existences that surpassed the 5th-star Imperial Monarch realm could come to this place. And even if it was an ordinary 4-star Imperial Monarch realm expert that came here, the expert will be sliced into pieces by the piercingly cold winds without leaving a corpse behind. No wonder this place hasn't been discovered by the Ice God clan's beasts. But come to think of it, the Lushan clan must have sent fighters to this place. It's just that there wasn't anything valuable at the bottom of the abyss, so they left. They probably didn't expect the Ice God clan's holy relic to be hidden here. A sharp light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. He decided to open the space at the bottom of the abyss as soon as possible and take away the Ice God clan's holy relic. In the half a year of traveling in the Shenwu world, Long Yu had already grasped 30% of the 9 Nether mark. He knew very well that the Ice God clan's holy relic was hidden at the bottom of the abyss. However, the bottom of the abyss was made of extremely hard ice. Even a 7-star emperor wouldn't be able to break it open. Even a sovereign realm expert could only slowly break it open. Once the ice was broken a little, it would immediately turn back into ice. There was only one way to break through the ice at the bottom of the abyss, and that was to use the 9 Nether Divine text to corrode it. As this was arranged by the Geo Dragon Emperor when he was still alive, when the 9 Nether Divine text touched the ice at the bottom of the ice abyss, the ice began to melt, and there were no signs of it turning back into ice. A few days later, Long Yu successfully used the 9 Nether Divine text to open a 10-zhong long ice tunnel, allowing him to go to the special space at the bottom of the ice abyss. In this place, even the unique spatial energy of the 9 Nether realm is unable to be used. Looks like all spatial energies of different natures are absolutely sealed in this place and are unable to be used. Looks like I have to move as fast as I can. Otherwise, if someone else blocks this icy passage, even I might not be able to get out. As Long Yu thought to himself, he stepped into the icy passageway and slid down rapidly towards the ground. The problem that followed was that a special aura was seeping out from the bottom of the ice tunnel, spreading towards the outside world. This was the special power of the Ice God clan's holy relic. Very soon, a group of Ice God clan beasts would be attracted here, but the first batch of Ice God clan beasts would definitely not be able to pass through the entire ice abyss. The Ice God clan beasts that had not reached the level of a 5-star emperor would be directly swept to death by the biting cold wind in the abyss. By the time the Ice God clan mustered the 5-star emperor level experts to come here, Long Yu would most likely have already obtained the Ice God clan's holy relic. Once he succeeded, no one would be able to break through the restriction of Consort Yu to sense the location of the Ice God clan's holy relic. Long Yu slid down 10 zhong and soon arrived at a vast underground space under the ice layer. In this underground space, the cold aura was extremely strong, and everything would be frozen into ice here. Even Long Yu had to maintain the double defense of the death aura and the death armor at all times to ensure that he would not be frozen into an ice sculpture. This underground space only has 2 floors, and there are no ice statues or anything like that. It seems that if other experts come down here, I won't even be able to borrow their strength. I don't know what the Geo Dragon Emperor is thinking. Does he think that when he comes to obtain the Ice God clan's holy relic, no one will be able to stop him? Long Yu thought to himself and roughly understood the Geo Dragon Emperor's thoughts. In the hidden space of the Earth God clan's holy relic, there were countless 7-star Emperor-level statues guarding it. This was the preparation that the Geo Dragon Emperor had made for himself when he borrowed a body to be reborn. As for the Ice God clan's holy relic, The Geo-Dragon Emperor might want to wait until his strength had increased to a certain level before he could take it away, so he did not set up any defensive forces. This was not good news for Long Yu, because it meant that if someone else came here, he would not be able to resist at all. One had to know that those who could pass through the Ice Abyss were at least 5-star Emperor-level existences. This was an existence that even the Crane Jew puppet of the First Heaven Division might not be able to deal with. If the 7-star Emperor came down, the Crane Jew puppet of the 5-star Emperor level could at most resist for 3 breaths of time. However, Long Yu was not too worried about his own safety. Instead, he quickly walked towards the depths of the underground space. This was because he still had a trump card that even the Geo-Dragon Emperor did not have, and that was the Book of Dark Shadows. The Book of Dark Shadows could allow him to continuously disguise himself as other existences. It was definitely a top-notch technique in terms of hiding and escaping. Below the ice, there were 2 floors of space. In the first floor, there were many Archean and Archean elixirs. Unfortunately, many of them had already been taken by Long Yu, so the effects would not be as good if he took them again. Of course, Long Yu had the Netherworld Dragon Blade, so he could absorb all the effects of the elixirs he took, which was several times better than others. Even if he took elixir for the 4th time, the effects would be comparable to some people taking it for the 2nd or even the 1st time. Of course, these Archean and Archean elixirs were all taken away by Long Yu. He did not use them for the time being, because he still needed the heaven and earth spiritual chi in the future. Apart from the elixirs, there were also some jade scrolls that recorded martial arts techniques, as well as a few stones of different colors. These stones contained the auras of various divine characters of different attributes. Long Yu was quite surprised, because the function of these stones was to increase the compatibility between the cultivator and the divine characters of their respective attributes. Right now, apart from reaching the 10th level of compatibility with the shadow attribute divine characters, Long Yu's compatibility with the divine characters of other attributes was only at the 5th level. If not for the fact that he had reached the 10th level of compatibility with the shadow attribute divine characters, he would not even be qualified to cultivate divine formations. If he could reach a higher level of compatibility with the divine characters of other attributes, the power of the divine formations he could use would be even greater. This was especially true for the 3rd grade divine formation, Scarlet Blood, which was most suitable for the divine characters of the Berserker attribute, and the 2nd grade divine formation, 12-star Prison, which was most suitable for the divine characters of the elemental attribute. Long Yu first put away these stones of different colors. He did not absorb the energy within them on the spot, because he knew that if the aura of the Ice God clan's holy artifact leaked out, he would not be safe right now. After searching through the first layer of space, Long Yu stepped into the 2nd layer of space below the ice layer. In the center of this floor, he finally saw the Ice God clan's holy artifact. It was an ice statue that looked like a miniature hexagonal ice crystal. If it was not for the fact that there was no aura of life within it, Long Yu would have thought that it was a small Ice God clan beast. In other words, the Ice God clan's holy artifact looked exactly the same as the Ice God clan beast, of course, except for the size. Long Yu walked toward the small hexagonal ice crystal, wanting to put it away. Chapter 10:10. The Ice God exotic beasts had obviously sensed the aura of the holy relic coming from the bottom of the ice abyss. Hence, they had all gathered here and jumped into the ice abyss, hoping to obtain the holy relic. Unfortunately, the nearby Ice God exotic beasts were all relatively weak. There weren't even any Ice God exotic beasts at the level of the Emperor. If they jumped into the ice abyss one by one, only death awaited them. The cold winds in the ice abyss were biting cold. Those below the level of 5-star Emperor would surely die if they jumped in. Even Long Yu had to rely on the defensive capabilities of the Dragon Bone Tower to pass through safely. Just as the Ice God exotic beasts were recklessly jumping into the ice abyss, Long Yu had already grasped the small hexagonal ice crystal in his hand. The Earth God's sacred relic from before was also a hexagonal crystal, but it was brown in color and contained the source of 6 types of Earth God divine text. Now, the Ice God exotic beast that Long Yu had obtained was a light blue hexagonal ice crystal statue. It was like a miniature version of the Ice God exotic beast. It also contained 6 ice attribute divine text sources. Unfortunately, Long Yu had no way to absorb or comprehend the power within. So for the time being, he still didn't know what use these foreign god races' sacred objects would have for him. However, since the Geo-Dragon Emperor had kept it a secret, it must be useful. Long Yu might not be able to figure it out now, but he might be able to in the future. Even Consort, you didn't seem to know what use the Earth God's sacred relic had. It seems like it'll take a long time to find out the answer to this question, Long Yu thought. Up until now, all the treasures stored by the Geo-Dragon Emperor in the Ice Abyss had been taken away by Long Yu. The problem he faced now was how to escape from the endless horde of Ice God exotic beasts. I can only rely on the Book of Shadows. Long Yu thought to himself, looks like I'll have to use up a lot of energy this time. Before leaving the Abyss, Long Yu had absorbed the energy from over 1,000 exotic beast crystals into the Nether Void Dragon Blade. As long as he needed it, he could absorb it at any time. This way, he could replenish his strength at least 10 times over. From the bottom of the Ice Abyss to the outside world, Long Yu couldn't hide in the Dragon Bone Tower anymore. Otherwise, it wouldn't be convenient for him to move around if he was discovered by the Ice God exotic beasts. Therefore, Long Yu's only choice was to transform into a cold current. By relying on the Book of Shadows, he could transform his body into a biting cold current and float upwards. This way, he could leave without being affected by the endless cold current. However, transforming into another power would consume a lot of Long Yu's power, so Long Yu had stored some power in the Nether Void Dragon Blade. It's starting. Frost Incarnation. Long Yu left the icy passageway, and his body instantly dissipated. He turned into a cold current in an instant, blending into the endless chilly winds in the depths of the Ice Abyss. Silently, Long Yu kept rising into the air. At the same time, the energy in his body was being consumed at a crazy rate. Even though he had stored the energy from over 1,000 exotic beast crystals, it still didn't seem to be enough. Fortunately, Long Yu's speed was also very fast after he transformed into a stream of cold air. Before long, he could feel the Ice God clan's strange beasts jumping down from the sky and being torn to shreds by the biting cold wind around him. These strange beasts were all in the divine secret realm, King Realm, and Emperor Realm. They couldn't resist the cold wind at all. The chilly winds have weakened. It's about time. The energy in Long Yu's body, including the energy he had stored beforehand, was almost completely consumed in this short period of time. Then, the Book of Shadows flipped again, disguising him as a mid-stage Emperor Realm Ice God exotic beast. The energy required to disguise as a living creature was thousands of times less than before. Long Yu let out a sigh of relief. It seemed like he didn't have to worry about running out of energy for the time being. While the surrounding Ice God exotic beasts weren't paying attention to Long Yu, the mid-stage Emperor Realm Ice God exotic beast that Long Yu had transformed into flew above the Ice Abyss at top speed and then flew away into the distance. Just when Long Yu felt that he was already safe, a trace of vigilance suddenly appeared in the depths of his heart, giving him a premonition of extreme danger. Not good, Dodge. Although Long Yu didn't know where the danger was coming from, he still reacted immediately. His whole body turned into a speck of dust, and the body of the Ice God exotic beast instantly disintegrated and dissipated in the air. Immediately afterward, a terrifying flame power descended from the sky and blasted towards the Ice Abyss in an instant. Countless Ice God exotic beasts were killed by the power of the flame divine characters. Not even their corpses were left behind. It's an attack from at least a 5-star emperor. Long Yu turned into a speck of dust. In the next instant, he completely fused with the terrifying flame energy, allowing him to survive the attack. However, as a result, the energy within Long Yu's body had been completely used up. There was simply no energy left for him to use any other methods. Disguise. Stone. Long Yu consumed the last trace of energy in his body and finally managed to disguise himself as a small stone. He fell to the ground as if he was scorched by the flame. Disguising as a still object consumed less energy than disguising as a living creature, and it was a one-time consumption. Now that Long Yu had transformed into a stone, if he didn't come out himself, no one would find out that it was actually a person in disguise. Of course, the biggest drawback of disguising as a still object was that most still objects were very fragile. For a powerhouse at the level of the Emperor, it was to the extent that it would shatter with a touch. If he wanted to disguise himself as a relatively strong still object, then the amount of energy needed would increase exponentially. Now that Long Yu had exhausted all of his energy, disguising himself as a small stone was already his limit. If the soul seal siphon was not sealed, I could casually explode a few siphon totems, and the power of my body would be full in an instant. It's a pity that the soul seal siphon magic was sealed by the evil power of the black stone. I can't use it. Long Yu felt that it was a pity. Then he felt that several powerful existences were descending from the sky above the ice abyss. Long Yu didn't dare to probe, but he could feel that these 4 or 5 powerhouses descending from the sky were definitely at the level of the Emperor. After disguising as a stone, Long Yu had no hearing and no vision. He could only rely on his weak perception. If he hadn't practiced the 6th level of balance control, he might not even know where the other party was and what kind of strength they had. It could be said that he was in the dark. I hope they don't destroy this place. Long Yu thought, if this small stone that he disguised as was destroyed, then his body would have nowhere to escape. At that time, facing 4 or 5 existences that were at least at the level of the 5-star Emperor, he basically had no way to survive. The cultivators at the level of the 5-star Emperor definitely came from outer space. As for why they appeared here, perhaps it was because of the aura of the Ice God clan's holy relic. Long Yu silently hid himself. Soon, he sensed that there were a total of 5 Imperial monarchs in the vicinity, and there seemed to be even more Imperial monarchs hidden in the clouds in the sky. This was a team regal. Long Yu thought to himself, for the Lushan clan to send such a small team to Shenwu World, what are they trying to do? The matter of the 9 Serenities mark shouldn't have been exposed yet, which means that these people are only here to investigate. From this, it can be seen that the higher-ups of the Lushan clan have already discovered the recent abnormalities in the 9 Serenities realm, including the Dark Moon Calamity. As Long Yu thought to himself, he became even more cautious. Since the Lushan clan had already discovered the abnormalities, then he would have to be more careful in his actions from now on. Otherwise, if he wasn't careful, he would be caught by the Lushan clan, and at that time, he wouldn't even know how he died. The 9 Serenities mark definitely couldn't be transferred to anyone else. Otherwise, Consort, you wouldn't have needed to personally train Long Yu. If that's the case, if the Lushan clan caught Long Yu and found out that it had the 9 Serenities dragon mark in his body, then there would only be 2 choices. One was to imprison Long Yu, make him serve the Lushan clan and lose his freedom. The other was to directly kill him and be done with it. Neither was what Long Yu wanted. So right now, he was praying that they would leave as soon as possible. That way he would be safe. Finally, after waiting for more than 2 hours, the Emperor powerhouses scattered in all directions. It seemed like they were trying to find some clues. All the Ice God clan exotic beasts were killed, and since the aura of the Ice God clan's sacred relic had disappeared, it didn't attract any more Ice God clan exotic beasts. When the aura of the Emperor powerhouses disappeared, Long Yu heaved a sigh of relief. However, he still didn't let his guard down. He continued to disguise himself as a small stone, while he recovered his strength in the Book of Dark Shadows. 6 hours passed. The Emperor powerhouses returned to the Ice Abyss several times, but they still couldn't find Long Yu, nor did they find any clues. They didn't know where the Ice God clan's sacred relic at the bottom of the abyss had gone. 2 Emperor powerhouses seemed to have gone to the bottom of the abyss, but they definitely didn't find anything. It seems like they knew someone came here and took away the Ice God clan's sacred relic. After waiting for 6 hours, Long Yu's strength was almost fully recovered. Then he disguised himself as a breeze and flew into the distance. In front of the Emperor powerhouses, even if it was just a gust of wind, it was very likely that they would notice it. So Long Yu could only follow the natural flow of air and slowly leave this place. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.